The explosion that tore through the embassy's west wing came at 0347 hours. Marine security guard Corporal Zara Osei had exactly 8 seconds before the backup generators failed and plunged the compound into darkness. 8 seconds to make a choice that would define the next 14 hours. 8 seconds before she became the only thing standing between 32 American civilians and a paramilitary death squad that had just breached the outer perimeter. What they did not know about Corporal Osei was that she had spent 6 years before the Marines in a place where darkness was an ally, not an enemy. The blast wave hit her first, a wall of superheated air that slammed her against the security station console. Her ears rang with a high-pitched whine that drowned out everything except the thud of her own heartbeat. Training took over before conscious thought. She was moving, her hand already reaching for the emergency lockdown switch, her eyes scanning the security monitors even as debris rained down outside. 3 screens went black immediately. The West Wing was gone. The 4th monitor showed something that made her blood turn to ice. Figures in tactical gear were pouring through the breach, moving with the practiced efficiency of professional soldiers. Not insurgents, not protesters. These were operators. Zara's finger hovered over the base-wide alarm. Standard protocol was clear. Sound the alarm. Wake everyone. Get them to the safe room. But something in the way those figures moved made her hesitate. They were already spreading out with purpose, heading towards specific locations. They knew the layout. This was not a random attack. She hit the silent alarm instead, the one that would alert only the other Marine security guards on duty. Then she activated the emergency protocol that would seal the ambassador's residence and the safe room. Her fellow MSG, Sergeant DeMarco, should have responded within seconds. The communications panel stayed silent. Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you have witnessed acts of courage like this in your community. Zara switched to the internal camera feeds, cycling through each position. Post 1, the main entrance, empty. Post 2, the motor pool, empty. Post 3, the ambassador's residence. She could see movement, but it was the wrong kind. Not DeMarco's familiar gait. Someone else. Her hand moved to her radio. Sergeant DeMarco, Post 3, report. Nothing. Corporal Hayes, Post 1, sitrep. Static. She tried the emergency channel. Marine Security Guard Force, this is Post 5, we have a breach, respond. The silence that came back was worse than any answer. She was alone. The thought should have paralyzed her. For Marine security guards assigned to the embassy, and she could not raise a single one. 42 local guard force members who should have responded to the explosion, all of them gone or compromised in the first 60 seconds of the attack. But Zara Osei had been alone before, in worse places than this. Her fingers moved across the console with practice speed, pulling up the safe room status. Green lights across the board. The ambassador, his wife, their 9-year-old daughter Emma, and 29 embassy staff members had made it inside before the lockdown. The room was designed to withstand a siege for 72 hours. They were safe for now. The security monitors showed the tactical team splitting into 3 groups. One heading for the communications center, one moving toward the vehicle bay. The third, the largest group, advancing on the main building where the ambassador's office and the classified spaces were located. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles, covering each other with the kind of coordination that came from hundreds of hours of training together. Zara counted bodies. 40, maybe more. She checked her sidearm. 15 rounds in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. 16 bullets. 40 hostiles. The math was not encouraging. Her eyes caught movement on the monitor showing the residential hallway. A small figure in princess pajamas stood frozen outside the ambassador's quarters. Emma. The little girl must have been in the bathroom when the lockdown triggered, separated from her parents by 30 feet and a blast door that would not open again for anyone. Every tactical bone in Zara's body screamed at her to stay put, to defend her position, to wait for the quick reaction force that would surely be mobilized. But Emma was standing in that hallway, and the tactical team was 3 corridors away from her location. Zara was moving before she finished the thought. She grabbed her rifle from the rack, checked the magazine, and stepped into the corridor. The emergency lighting cast everything in red shadow, painting the walls the color of warning. Her boots made no sound on the tile floor. 6 years of her life before the Marines had been spent learning how to move through spaces like a ghost. She reached Emma in 40 seconds, dropping to one knee in front of the child. Emma's eyes were wide with terror, her whole body trembling. Zara put one hand gently on the girl's shoulder. "It's okay, Emma. I'm going to get you somewhere safe." The girl's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Where's my mommy?" "She's safe in the special room. I'm going to take you to her." Zara scooped Emma into her arms, feeling the child's small frame shaking against her chest. The nearest secondary safe point was the security office, reinforced walls, and a door that would take even a breaching charge several attempts to crack. She could secure Emma there, then figure out what the hell was happening. She made it 5 steps before she heard the voices. They were speaking in Russian, professional and calm. 2 of them, maybe 3, advancing from the main corridor. Zara shifted Emma to her left arm, her right hand moving to her sidearm. She could not fire her rifle one-handed, not accurately, not while holding a child. The security office was 20 feet ahead. The voices were getting closer. She had maybe 10 seconds before they turned the corner. The office door required a key card and a PIN code. She would need both hands for the sequence. Zara made a decision that would have gotten her reprimanded in any training scenario. She set Emma down, putting the girl behind her own body. Her hands moved through the security sequence in 3 seconds flat. The lock clicked. She pushed Emma through the door. "Stay here, baby. Do not open this door for anyone except me or your parents. Do you understand?" Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Good girl. I promise I'll come back for you." Zara pulled the door shut just as the first tactical operator rounded the corner. He was good. She had to give him that. His weapon was up and scanning before his body fully committed to the turn. But Zara had already moved, pressing herself flat against the wall beside a recessed doorway. The operator said something to his partner, gesturing down the hallway. They had not seen her. Not yet. They were focused on the blast door to the safe room, trying to assess the mechanism. One of them produced a tablet, examining the door's specifications. Zara watched them work, her mind calculating angles and odds. She could take them. 2 targets, controlled environment, element of surprise. But the sound of gunfire would bring every other operator in the building down on her position. Emma was 10 feet away behind a door that would not stop a determined assault. She needed these men gone, not dead. Not yet. Her hand found a fire alarm pull station mounted on the wall beside her. In any other situation, setting off a false alarm during a tactical situation would be insane. But these operators were professionals. They would recognize the difference between an incendiary device and a standard alarm. They would investigate cautiously, expecting a trap. Zara pulled the alarm. The klaxon screamed to life, strobing lights adding to the chaos. The 2 operators spun toward the sound, weapons raised, advancing with careful precision. They passed within 3 feet of her position, focused on the threat they expected ahead. As soon as they cleared her position, Zara moved in the opposite direction, heading deeper into the embassy toward her security station. She needed to understand what she was facing. She needed communications. She needed a plan that did not end with her being buried under rubble with everyone she was supposed to protect. The security station was compromised. She could see it the moment she rounded the corner. One of the tactical operators was standing at her console, examining the security feeds. He was alone, confident enough in his team's sweep that he had not bothered with a partner. Zara's training offered her a dozen ways to handle this. Most of them involved violence. But the man at her console was looking at something that made him speak urgently into his radio. She caught fragments of Russian, enough to understand that he had found something important. She needed to know what he knew. Zara approached from his blind side, using the equipment racks for cover. The operator was focused entirely on the screen, his weapon slung across his back. Sloppy. Overconfident. She was 3 feet away when he finally sensed something wrong. He turned, reaching for his weapon, but Zara was already moving. Her hand caught his wrist, redirecting the weapon away from her body. Her other hand drove into his solar plexus, not hard enough to incapacitate, but enough to fold him forward. She had his weapon stripped and his body controlled in under 2 seconds. Her voice was calm, professional, the tone she used with uncooperative detainees. You're going to tell me who sent you and what you want. You're going to do it quietly, not if you understand. The operator's eyes were sharp with intelligence. He was assessing her, calculating odds, looking for an opening. Then his expression changed, something like recognition flickering across his features. He spoke in accented English. You're not standard embassy security. Zara increased the pressure on his wrist. What are you looking for? His smile was cold. The same thing you are trying to protect. But you are alone, and we are 40. The mathematics are not favorable for you. A voice crackled over the radio clipped to the operator's vest, speaking in rapid Russian. Zara caught enough to understand. They had found the safe room. They were analyzing the door. And someone named Volkov was coming to personally oversee the breach. The operator saw the understanding in her eyes. His smile widened. You should surrender now. Commander Volkov does not appreciate complications. Zara's response was to drive her knee into his midsection, harder this time, and secure him to the equipment rack with his own zip ties. She took his radio, his sidearm, and his tactical vest. Then she pulled up the security feed he had been examining. Her blood ran cold. The tactical team had mapped every entrance to the safe room. They had the specifications for the door, the ventilation system, the power supply. They knew exactly how to crack it open. And according to the timestamp on the schematic, they had uploaded it less than 3 minutes ago. Someone had given them the embassy blueprints. Someone who knew every detail of the security systems. This was not just a well-planned assault. This was an inside job. Zara's radio crackled to life with a new voice, deeper and more commanding than the others. The English was perfect, barely touched by an accent. Whoever you are in the security office, I know you are listening. My name is Commander Kazimir Volkov. I am not here to harm the civilians in your safe room. I am here to retrieve something that belongs to my employers. Give me access to your classified servers, and I will leave your people unharmed. Zara's finger hovered over the transmit button. Every instinct told her to stay silent, to give away nothing. But this Volkov had already proven he had detailed knowledge of the embassy. He knew she was listening. She pressed the button. This is Corporal Zara Osei, United States Marine Corps. You are conducting an unauthorized military operation on American sovereign territory. Stand down and surrender your personnel. The laugh that came back was rich with genuine amusement. A Marine. Of course. Tell me, Corporal Osei, how many Marines are currently operational in this embassy? Zara's silence was answer enough. That is what I thought. Here is your situation. You are alone. Your colleagues are either dead or incapacitated. No one is coming to help you for at least 6 hours when the next shift change is discovered. I have 40 trained operators and intimate knowledge of this facility. You have 16 rounds in your sidearm and perhaps 30 in your rifle. The mathematics, as my associate probably told you, are not favorable. Zara, check her rifle magazine. 30 rounds exactly. Volkov had been watching her on the security feeds. He knew her loadout better than she did. His voice continued, almost gentle. I have no desire to harm you or the civilians. This is a simple recovery operation. Give me the servers, and everyone lives. Resist, and I will be forced to take them by less pleasant means. You have 10 minutes to decide. The radio went silent. Zara looked at the security monitors, watching Volkov's teams take position throughout the embassy. They moved with absolute confidence, the assurance of overwhelming force. 10 minutes. 40 operators. 32 civilians counting on her. And somewhere in this embassy, classified servers that apparently held something worth mounting a full-scale paramilitary operation to retrieve. Zara Osei had been in impossible situations before. She had survived things that should have killed her. She had learned skills in dark places that the Marine Corps did not teach. and she had made a promise to a 9-year-old girl in princess pajamas that she would keep her safe. 10 minutes. She could work with that. She began pulling up every security system, every override, every dirty trick the embassy's defensive systems possessed. If Volkov wanted a simple recovery operation, he had chosen the wrong Marine to stand in his way. The radio crackled one more time. Volkov's voice had lost its gentle tone. I should mention, Corporal, that I am familiar with your type. Special operations background, perhaps private security before your enlistment. You are wondering if you can hold out long enough for rescue. You are calculating odds and planning some heroic last stand. Zara said nothing, her hands flying across the keyboard. Let me save you the trouble. I trained at the same facility you did. I recognize the way you move, the way you think. We are products of the same machine, you and I. The only difference is that I have 40 people and you have pride. Pride will not save those civilians. Surrender will. Zara's hands froze on the keyboard. The same facility. There's only one place that would mean one program that trained people to move the way she moved. And if Volkov had come from there, then he was not just good. He was a ghost, like her. This had just become much more complicated. The 10 minutes started now. Zara had 90 seconds before Volkov's deadline expired. She used 60 of them to map every defensive option available in the embassy's systems. The other 30 she spent accepting a truth she had avoided for 6 years. The past she had buried was about to become her only advantage. The facility Volkov mentioned existed in the spaces between official records. No name, just a designation. Program 17, located in a compound outside Prague that did not appear on any satellite imagery. She had spent 6 years there learning things that made Marine Corps training look like summer camp. Close quarters combat, unconventional warfare, how to turn any environment into a weapon, how to survive when survival seemed impossible. She had left that life behind when she joined the Marines, seeking something cleaner, something with rules and honor and a flag she could believe in. But Volkov was right about one thing. You could take the operator out of Program 17, but the program never left the operator. The security console gave her access to systems most MSG personnel never learned existed. Pressure sensors in the walls, remotely operated locks on every door, environmental controls that could turn individual rooms into ovens or freezers. The embassy had been built during the Cold War, designed to withstand siege conditions. The architects had been paranoid, and right now, Zara blessed every one of them. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, creating a network of obstacles throughout the building. She locked doors behind Volkov's teams, forcing them into longer routes. She triggered motion sensors in empty corridors, making them waste time clearing rooms she was nowhere near. She adjusted the HVAC system to pump carbon dioxide into specific zones, not enough to be dangerous, but enough to make them tired, slow, less sharp. Volkov's voice came over the radio again, right on schedule. Your 10 minutes are up, Corporal. I am disappointed, but not surprised. We will do this the hard way. Zara watched the monitors as his teams began moving with new purpose. They were heading for the safe room from 3 different directions, a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm any defense. But they were also moving through zones she had just made significantly more complicated. The first team hit the locked doors 30 seconds into their advance. She watched their leader try his keycard, fail, then pull out a breaching tool. It would take them 4 minutes to cut through. She used those 4 minutes to relocate to a new position, carrying everything she could use. Extra ammunition magazines she found in DeMarco's locker, a tactical vest that actually fit her frame, and a tablet linked to the security system. The second team found a carbon dioxide problem when their point man started showing symptoms. Nothing dramatic, just slower reaction times, a headache that made him less focused. They pulled back, regrouped, chose a different route. That bought her another 6 minutes. The third team was smarter. Their leader stopped in the middle of the corridor and looked directly at the camera. He smiled, then shot it out. 3 more cameras went dark in rapid succession. Volkov was adapting, learning her tactics, eliminating her advantages. Zara shifted to the backup camera system, the one that ran on separate wiring and was not marked on any official schematic. The paranoid Cold War architects again. She could still see Team 3, and what she saw made her reassess Volkov's capabilities. They were not just clearing rooms anymore. They were setting up overlapping fields of fire, establishing fallback positions, moving like they expected serious resistance. They were moving like they expected her. Her radio crackled. Volkov's voice had a new quality to it, something like professional respect. "You are better than I anticipated, Corporal. Those delays were well executed. But you're only delaying the inevitable. My team leaders are former Spetsnaz, Sayeret Makol, GROM. Your tricks will only work once against operators of this caliber." Zara knew he was right. She had bought herself maybe 20 minutes total and burned through most of her remote options to do it. Time to get personal. She checked Emma's position on the security office camera. The little girl was curled up in a chair, hugging her knees, tears streaming down her face, but making no sound. Smart kid. Brave kid. She deserved better than to become a bargaining chip in whatever game Volkov was playing. The safe room showed all occupants accounted for. The ambassador had activated the internal communication system, and Zara could hear him trying to maintain calm among the staff. His wife was leading breathing exercises with the younger employees. Good people doing their best in an impossible situation. Also her responsibility. Zara moved through the embassy like smoke, using maintenance corridors and service shafts that the regular staff barely knew existed. She had spent her first month as MSG walking every inch of this building, memorizing routes and hiding spots. That obsessive preparation was about to pay dividends. Team 1 finally breached their locked door and emerged into a corridor she had designated as Kill Zone Alpha. Not because she intended to kill anyone there, but because it was a natural funnel point with only 2 exits. She waited until all 6 operators were committed to the corridor, then triggered the fire suppression system. Halon gas flooded the space in under 3 seconds. Non-toxic but completely disorienting, it turned the air into a white fog that made visibility drop to 0. She heard shouting in Russian, confused voices calling out positions. By the time they reached the far exit and stumbled into clear air, Zara had already disabled their radio repeater and relocated their spare ammunition boxes. They would not figure out what she had taken for another 10 minutes, and by then, they would be operating on half loads. Team 2 adapted faster. They found the carbon dioxide zone, identified the problem, and simply went around it through an exterior window. Clever. But that route took them past the vehicle bay, where Zara had spent 5 of her precious minutes rigging a surprise. She waited until they were directly under the bay's camera, then triggered the emergency release on the vehicle lift. A embassy SUV that had been elevated for maintenance dropped 4 feet onto its supports with a crash that sounded like an explosion. The team scattered, taking defensive positions, wasting 90 seconds clearing a threat that did not exist. Small victories. Death by 1,000 cuts. Make them tired, make them frustrated, make them sloppy. Volkov's voice had lost its patience. Enough games, Corporal Osei. You are skilled, I grant you that. But I know what you are doing. Harassment tactics. Delay and disrupt. Classic asymmetric warfare. It will not save you. Zara pressed the transmit button for the first time since their initial exchange. It is not about saving me, Commander. It is about those 32 civilians you claim not to want to harm. Every minute I delay you is another minute for help to arrive. His laugh was sharp and humorless. Help from whom? Do you think your Marine Security Guard attachment has been monitoring communications? Do you think anyone knows we are here? We own the local security forces, Corporal. We own the communication networks. Your chain of command believes this embassy is having routine technical difficulties. No help is coming. Zara felt ice form in her stomach. If he was telling the truth, if they had compromised communications at the regional level, then her 6-hour estimate for rescue was optimistic. It could be 12 hours, 24, however long it took for someone to physically check on the embassy's status. She was not buying time for rescue. She was buying time to figure out how to win this herself. The tablet in her hand showed all three teams converging on the safe room from different angles. Volkov was done playing. He was committing to a full assault, overwhelming force applied to a single point. The safe room door was rated to withstand a car bomb, but it was not invincible. Given enough time and the right tools, any door could be breached. Zara checked her ammunition count again. 73 rounds total between her pistol and rifle. She had reduced Volkov's force by exactly 0, delayed them, annoyed them, made them work harder than they expected. But she had not stopped them, and she was running out of tricks. Thomas stopped playing defense. She pulled up the classified server room's location on her tablet. Whatever Volkov wanted was in there, important enough to mount this entire operation. Important enough that he had brought 40 operators and inside intelligence. If she could deny him that objective, if she could destroy whatever he came for, then his only leverage would be the hostages. And Zara was betting that a professional like Volkov did not want to negotiate with dead civilians as his only card to play. The server room was 3 floors down in the embassy's hardened core. Getting there meant crossing through zones currently occupied by at least 2 of Volkov's teams. The direct routes were completely compromised. Good thing she did not plan to take a direct route. Zara accessed the building's maintenance schematics and found what she was looking for. An air handling shaft that ran vertically through the building, wide enough for a person to navigate if they did not mind tight spaces, and a 3-story drop with minimal handholds. The shaft had been built for equipment access, not human traffic, but Program 17 had taught her to redefine possible. She reached the access panel in 40 seconds, her tools making quick work of the bolts. The shaft opened into darkness, the smell of dust and oil rising to meet her. She attached a chemical light stick to her vest, not for her benefit, but to mark her position if she fell, then lowered herself into the narrow space. The descent was controlled desperation. Handholds that were never meant to bear human weight. Metal edges that cut through her gloves. The knowledge that a single slip would send her plummeting onto concrete. She made it 2 floors before she heard voices above her. Someone had discovered the open access panel. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, sweeping the shaft. Zara pressed herself flat against the wall, making her body as small as possible. The light passed over her twice, missing her by inches each time. Then voices in Russian, discussing whether to follow or report. They chose report. Smart. Following an unknown hostile into a vertical shaft was a good way to die in an ambush. But their report would alert Volkov to her general direction, and he would extrapolate her destination quickly enough. She had maybe 5 minutes before he repositioned teams to intercept her at the server room. Every second spent in this shaft was a second she could not afford. Zara dropped the last 8 feet, hitting the lower-level access panel with both boots and her shoulder. It gave way with a screech of protesting metal, and she tumbled into a basement corridor that smelled of machinery and stale air. Her shoulder screamed in protest, but nothing felt broken. She rolled her feet, weapon up, scanning for threats. Empty. For now. The server room door was 50 feet ahead, a massive steel barrier with biometric locks and triple redundancy. She had the authorization codes, the fingerprint access, everything she needed to get inside. What she did not have was time to do it properly. Zara pulled a strip of C4 from her vest, a leftover from the embassy's own security supplies that she had liberated during her earlier movement. Just enough to blow the lock mechanism without damaging the servers inside. She shaped the charge, set the timer for 30 seconds, and took cover behind a support pillar. The explosion was sharp and focused, exactly what she needed. The door's lock assembly sparked and died, and the heavy barrier swung open on emergency releases. Zara was through it before the smoke cleared. The server room was a cathedral of blinking lights and humming machinery. Rows of black equipment, fiber optic cables running like arteries through the space, the cool kiss of climate control on her face. Somewhere in this room was data worth 40 lives and a paramilitary assault. Her tablet connected to the server network automatically, embassy credentials granting her access. She pulled up the file directory, looking for anything recent, Anything that might explain why Volkov wanted this badly enough to risk everything. What she found made her blood run cold. The files were labeled with operation names she recognized from classified briefings. Intelligence assessments on regional military movements. Intercepts of communications between foreign governments. And buried in the middle of it all, a folder marked Rendition Evidence Volkov War Crimes Documentation. Zara opened the folder and understood everything. Photographs of a black site prison. Testimony from witnesses who had survived. Communications between American intelligence officers and foreign military personnel. Evidence of torture, rendition, disappearances. And at the center of it all, one name appearing over and over. Commander Kazimir Volkov. This was not a recovery operation. This was a cover-up. Volkov had not come to steal intelligence. He had come to erase proof of his own crimes, evidence that would see him try to The Hague if it ever became public. Her radio crackled to life, Volkov's voice colder than she had yet heard it. Corporal Osei, I know you have reached the servers. I know you are reading the files. Now you understand what I am here to destroy. I will make you an offer one final time. Walk away. Leave the servers intact. Take your civilians and disappear. I will be gone before anyone arrives to investigate. Zara looked at the evidence on her screen. Hundreds of victims. Systematic torture. Deaths that were never investigated. All of it erased if she walked away. She pulled a thermite grenade from her vest and set it on the primary server stack. Volkov's voice rose in genuine anger for the first time. Do not do this. Those files are the only thing keeping you alive. Destroy them, and I have no reason to preserve your civilians. Zara pressed the transmit button, her voice steady and cold. You're not going to kill those civilians, Commander. Because the moment you do, you become a mass murderer in addition to a war criminal, and every intelligence agency in the world will hunt you until you are in a hole so deep you never see sunlight again. Your only play was always to get in, get the evidence, and get out quietly. I just took your quiet option away. She pulled the grenade's pin and stepped back as white-hot thermite began eating through the servers, destroying drives and backups in a cascade of molten metal. The radio was silent for a long moment. Then Volkov's voice came back, and it was the voice of a man who had just accepted that civilized options were exhausted. And I suppose we do this the honest way, Corporal. You and me. Operator to operator. No more games. No more delays. You are between me and my exit, and I am between you and those civilians. One of us is going to break. I wonder which one it will be. Zara checked her ammunition one more time. 73 rounds. 40 hostiles. And now she had just made this very, very personal. She keyed the radio one last time. Come find out, Commander. Then she disappeared into the embassy's shadows, and the real hunt began. The thermite grenade had done its work. Behind Zura, the server room was a smoking ruin, millions of dollars in equipment reduced to slag and twisted metal. The evidence that could have destroyed Volkov's life was gone, but so was his reason for restraint. She had just turned a surgical operation into a desperate scramble, and desperate men made dangerous choices. Zara moved through the basement level with practiced silence, her boots finding the quietest path across the concrete floor. The explosion had given away her position, and Volkov would be repositioning his teams to box her in. She needed to be somewhere else before they arrived, somewhere they would not expect. The maintenance tunnels branched in 3 directions. Left led to the mechanical rooms, right to the vehicle bay, straight ahead to a ladder that would take her back to the main floors. All 3 routes had tactical merit. All 3 were probably being covered by now. She chose none of them. Instead, Zara pried open a floor grate that led to the embassy's utility crawl space, a 2-foot gap between the basement floor and the foundation. It was designed for plumbing and electrical access, not human navigation, but Program 17 had taught her that the best hiding spots were the ones nobody wanted to search. She dropped into the crawl space and pulled the grate back into place above her. The space smelled of damp concrete and copper piping. She could not stand, could barely crouch, but she could move on her belly like a snake through tall grass. And right now, invisible was better than mobile. Through the floor above, she heard boots pounding in response to the explosion. Voices calling out in Russian, coordinating a search pattern. They were good. She had to give them that. Three-man teams, overlapping coverage, textbook building clearance. But they were clearing a building that was not there anymore, hunting a target who had gone to ground in a space they did not know existed. Zara crawled 20 feet through the darkness, navigating by memory and the faint glow of her chemical light stick. The crawl space ran under most of the basement level, giving her access to multiple exit points. She chose one beneath the eastern stairwell, a location that would put her behind Volkov's search pattern. She was halfway to her chosen exit when her radio crackled to life. This time it was not Volkov's voice, but someone else, younger and harder. The accent was thicker, the English more deliberate. "Commander Volkov is disappointed in you, Corporal. He thought you were smarter than this. Now you have made things personal, and I get to have my fun. My name is Dmitri. I was Volkov's second in Prague. I know all about Program 17. I know how you were trained, and I know you are not as good as you think you are." Zara said nothing, but she felt a chill that had nothing to do with the damp concrete. Dmitri. She had heard that name before, in the dark corners of Program 17, where instructors spoke in whispers about students who had failed to grasp the difference between necessary violence and cruelty. Dmitri had been expelled from the program for what the files euphemistically called excessive methodology. If he was here, if he was Volkov's second, then things were about to get significantly worse. The voice continued, and she could hear the smile in it. "I am in the security office right now, Corporal, with a little girl in princess pajamas. Emma, I think you called her. Sweet child. She has been very quiet, very brave. But she keeps asking for you. Keeps asking when you're coming back like you promised." Zara's hand tightened on her rifle until her knuckles went white. Every instinct screamed at her to move, to fight, to get to Emma before this monster could hurt her. But that was exactly what Dmitri wanted. He was baiting a trap, and she was smart enough to recognize it. His voice dropped to something intimate and ugly. "I'm going to count to 60, Corporal. If you're not standing in front of me by the time I reach 0, I'm going to start teaching this little girl about the things we learned in Prague. The things they expelled me for. Do you remember what we did to make subjects compliant?" "I remember. I remember all of it." Rage flooded through Zara's body, hot and immediate. But beneath the rage was the cold calculation that Program 17 had beaten into her over 6 years. Dmitri was counting on emotion. He was counting on her to rush and blind, to throw away tactical advantage for the sake of a child. A normal person would do exactly that. She was not normal anymore. Zara keyed her radio, keeping her voice flat and emotionless. "Dmitri, I need you to listen very carefully. If you harm that child in any way, I will not kill you quickly. I will not kill you cleanly. I will use every technique they taught us in Prague, every method they expelled you for learning too well. And I will make it last for days. Do you understand me?" The counting stopped. For a moment, there was only silence on the radio. Then Dmitri's laugh came back, but it sounded forced, less confident. Big words from someone hiding in the dark like a rat. Zara was already moving, pulling herself through the crawl space with controlled urgency. She had to reach Emma before Dmitri's bravado overcame his survival instinct. But she also had to do it smart, had to approach from an angle he would not expect. Not hiding, Dmitri. Hunting. She reached her exit point and pushed up the floor grate slowly, listening for movement above. The eastern stairwell was clear, the search teams having moved past it toward the server room. Zara pulled herself up and out, her body protesting the confined movement, but obeying anyway. The security office was 2 floors up and across the main corridor. Direct route would take 90 seconds. Safe route would take 5 minutes. Emma might not have 5 minutes. Zara chose a third option. She sprinted for the main stairwell, making no attempt at stealth, her boots echoing off the walls. The noise would draw attention, would pull teams toward her position. That was the point. She made it 1 full flight before she heard shouts behind her. 2 operators rounding the corner below, weapons coming up. She fired 3 rounds without breaking stride, not aiming to kill, but to suppress. The rounds sparked off the metal railing, and the operators dove for cover. Good enough. She hit the ground floor landing and went left instead of right, ducking into the embassy's public spaces. The grand entry hall stretched before her, all marble floors and expensive art, designed to impress visiting dignitaries. Right now, it was a killing field, too much open space with too many angles. Zara ran across it anyway, trusting speed over caution. More shouts behind her, more boots on marble. She counted at least 4 different voices calling out positions in Russian. The trap was springing, but she was the one who had triggered it. The corridor to the security office lay ahead. She could see the door, still closed, no visible damage. Maybe Dmitri was bluffing. Maybe he had never gone near Emma. Maybe this was all theater designed to flush her into the open. She was 10 feet from the door when it opened and Dmitri stepped out. He was exactly what she expected. Tall, lean, all sharp angles and dangerous eyes. He held a pistol in one hand, pointed at the floor. His other hand rested on Emma's shoulder. The little girl's face was streaked with tears, but unmarked. She looked terrified, but unhurt. Dmitri's smile was everything ugly about Program 17 distilled into a single expression. There you are, Corporal. Right on schedule. You really are predictable when someone threatens a child. Zara stopped, her rifle coming up to aim at center mass. Let her go, and I will let you walk away. His laugh was genuine. You will let me walk away? You destroyed our objective. You killed our mission. Commander Volkov is many things, but forgiving is not one of them. We are not walking away from anything. Then we have a problem. No, Corporal. You have a problem. He shifted his grip on Emma's shoulder, and Zara saw the calculation in his eyes. He was measuring angles, judging whether he could use the child as a shield, whether Zara would take the shot with a 9-year-old in the line of fire. Program 17 had taught her many things. Precision shooting under stress was one of them. Dmitri was 6 feet tall. Emma was maybe 4 feet. The gap between the top of the child's head and Dmitri's center mass was at least 18 inches of clear target. At 10 feet, with her rifle and her training, it was not even a difficult shot. But pulling that trigger with a child in the equation required being certain, and certainty was something Zara could not afford to fake. She lowered her rifle slightly, just enough to show she was considering his implied threat. Dmitri's smile widened. He thought he had won, thought he had found her weakness. He had, just not the one he expected. Zara's hand moved to her vest and pulled something that made Dmitri's expression flicker with confusion. Not a weapon, not a grenade, a small plastic card with a magnetic strip. Her embassy access badge. She held it up where he could see it. This badge has level 5 clearance, Dmitri. Do you know what that means? His eyes narrowed. Some doors need special access. So what? So the door behind you, the security office door, has an automatic lock that engages when someone enters without proper authorization. Emma got in because I used my code. You got in because you breached it. And breaching it triggered a secondary protocol that nobody told you about because it is not in any schematic. She saw understanding dawn in his eyes half a second before the door's emergency lock engaged with a heavy clunk. Dmitri spun, reaching for the handle, but the mechanism was already sealed. The door was designed to contain a security breach, to lock down the office if unauthorized access was detected. It would not open again without a proper code sequence entered from the outside. Emma was trapped inside. Dmitri was trapped outside. Zara's rifle came back up to firing position. Now it is just you and me. Dmitri's pistol swung toward her, but he was slow, off balance from his turn to the door. Zara's first shot took him in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. Her second shot hit his gun hand, and the pistol clattered to the floor. He dropped to his knees, clutching his wounds, and the smile was finally gone from his face. She closed the distance in 3 strides, kicked his pistol away, and pressed her rifle barrel against his forehead. Give me one reason I should not end this right now. His breathing was ragged with pain and shock. Volkov will kill everyone in that safe room if you kill me. I am his second. He needs me. Wrong answer. She pulled the rifle back and drove the stock into his temple, hard enough to drop him unconscious, but not hard enough to kill. He crumpled to the floor, and Zara zip-tied his hands and feet with practiced efficiency. Then she turned to the security office door. Emma, baby, can you hear me?" The little girl's voice came back muffled but clear. "Miss Zara, I'm scared. I know, sweetheart, but you're safe in there. That door is the strongest door in the building. Nobody can get to you. I need you to stay there just a little bit longer while I deal with the bad man. Can you do that for me?" A pause, then a small voice trying to be brave. "Okay, but please hurry. I promise." Zara heard boots approaching from multiple directions. Her little diversion had worked too well. She had drawn every nearby team to this location, and now she was standing in an open corridor with an unconscious hostile and a locked room she could not access without exposing herself. Time to move again. She grabbed Dimitri's tactical radio and vest, stripping anything useful before disappearing back into the corridor maze. Behind her, she heard Russian voices calling out as they found their second-in-command bleeding on the floor. Good. Let them waste time treating his wounds. Let them wonder how one woman had taken down their best operator in a straight fight. Volkov's voice came over the radio, and for the first time, she heard genuine emotion beneath the professional calm. "Dimitri is the best close-quarters fighter I have ever trained with. You took him down and left him alive." That was a message. Zara keyed the radio as she ran. "The message is simple, Commander. I'm better than you thought. Your teams are not enough. And every minute you waste here is another minute for the real authorities to figure out your communications blackout and send actual help." His response was quiet and dangerous. "Then I suppose I need to stop wasting time. The safe room door will take my team 90 minutes to breach with the equipment we brought. You have cost me 30 minutes already. That leaves 60 minutes for you to surrender before I start cutting my way to those civilians. Your choice, Corporal. 60 minutes. The line went dead. Zara checked her watch and did the math. 60 minutes to come up with a plan that did not end with 32 dead civilians. 60 minutes to figure out how to stop 40 trained operators with 70 rounds of ammunition in a building that was running out of tricks. She had been in worse situations before. She had survived them by being smarter, faster, and more willing to do terrible things than her enemies expected. Time to remind Volkov why Program 17 had nicknamed her the Ghost. She pulled up the embassy schematics on her stolen tablet and began planning something that was either brilliant or suicidal. Given the odds, it was probably both. 57 minutes remaining. Zara crouched in the ventilation shaft above the embassy's armory, watching through the grate as 3 of Volkov's operators worked on the reinforced door below. They had the right tools, the right training, but they were also standing directly beneath 200 pounds of her last desperate idea. The armory represented everything she needed and could not reach. M4 rifles with full magazines, fragmentation grenades, body armor that would actually stop a rifle round, enough ammunition to turn this from a harassment operation into a real fight. But Volkov had positioned a permanent guard on the room within 10 minutes of the initial breach, recognizing it as the one asset that could change the tactical equation. 3 guards, 70 rounds of ammunition left. The math still was not good, but it was better than it had been an hour ago. She had spent the last 15 minutes rigging her brilliant or suicidal plan. The ventilation shaft ran directly over the armory, and the grate below her was held in place by 4 bolts that were designed for maintenance access, not structural integrity. Above those bolts, she had carefully positioned every heavy object she could scavenge from nearby rooms. File cabinets, metal desk frames, a marble bust of some forgotten diplomat. All of it balanced precariously on the thin metal grate, waiting for the right moment to become an avalanche. The operators below were focused entirely on the armory door, their backs to the ceiling. Classic mistake. In Program 17, the instructors had drilled into every student that threats came from all angles, especially the ones you forgot to check. But these operators were good, not great. Spetsnaz-trained, Volkov had said, but Spetsnaz doctrine emphasized aggression over paranoia. Zara pulled the thermite pin from her vest, a specialized tool designed for destroying sensitive documents. It burned hot enough to melt through steel, which made it perfect for weakening metal bolts. She applied it to the first bolt, watching the metal glow and soften. Then the second, the third. The Great was holding on physics and prayer now, and physics was not going to last much longer. She saved the fourth bolt for last, waiting until the operators below shifted position. One of them said something in Russian that made the others laugh. They were relaxed, confident. They thought the hard part was opening the door, not watching their backs. Zara melted through the fourth bolt and threw herself backward in the shaft as gravity remembered how to work. The Great gave way with a shriek of tearing metal, and 200 pounds of improvised ammunition crashed down on the operators below. The sound was catastrophic, metal and marble and human screams mixing into chaos. She did not wait to see the results. She was already moving, dropping through a secondary access point 20 feet down the shaft, hitting the corridor at a run. Behind her, she heard groaning and Russian cursing. At least one of them was still alive, maybe more. But they were hurt, disoriented, and most importantly, no longer guarding the armory door. The door had taken damage from the falling debris. The locking mechanism twisted but not broken. Zara pulled her access card and prayed that the magnetic reader still worked. The light blinked green. The lock clicked. She was inside. The armory was exactly what she needed. She grabbed a fresh rifle, loaded magazines into every available pouch on her vest, and selected 2 fragmentation grenades that she clipped to her belt. Body armor came next, the proper kind with ceramic plates that would stop rifle rounds instead of the light vest she had been wearing. In 30 seconds, she went from undergunned fugitive to properly equipped operator. She also grabbed something else. A breaching charge, the kind used for blowing doors or creating entry points. It was heavier than she wanted to carry, but an idea was forming in her mind, the kind of idea that Program 17 would have called tactically unsound and strategically necessary. Behind her, she heard movement in the corridor. One of the operators she had dropped debris on was recovering faster than expected. She stepped back into the hallway to find him on his knees, blood streaming from a head wound, reaching for his rifle. Their eyes met. Zara could have killed him. Should have, by any tactical calculation. One less hostile was one step closer to survival. But something in his dazed expression reminded her that these men were following orders, executing a mission. Volkov was the architect. These operators were just tools. She kicked his rifle away and hit him with a controlled strike that sent him back into unconsciousness. Then she zip-tied him and moved on. Mercy was a luxury she probably could not afford, but she was not ready to become the kind of person who executed wounded enemies. Not yet, anyway. 51 minutes remaining. Zara made her way toward the safe room's location, moving with new confidence now that she had proper equipment. The embassy's layout meant there were 3 main approaches to the safe room, and Volkov would have teams on all of them. But there was also a 4th approach, one that did not appear on any official schematic. During the Cold War, the paranoid architects had built an emergency evacuation tunnel that connected the safe room to an exit point 3 blocks away. The tunnel was sealed from the safe room side by a blast door that could only be opened with proper authorization. But it could be opened from the tunnel side with enough explosive force, which was exactly what her breaching charge was designed to provide. The tunnel entrance was hidden in the basement behind a false wall in the mechanical room. Zara found it after 10 minutes of searching, her fingers locating the nearly invisible seam in the concrete. A hidden switch, a pneumatic hiss, and the wall section swung inward to reveal a dark passage sloping down into the earth. She activated a chemical light stick and started down. The tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for one person, and it smelled of damp earth and old concrete. Her footsteps echoed in the confined space, but there was no help for that. Speed mattered more than stealth now. The tunnel ran for what felt like miles, but was probably only a few hundred yards. It terminated in a sealed blast door identical to the one protecting the safe room from the inside. Zara examined the mechanism. Hydraulic locks, reinforced steel, designed to withstand anything short of a military-grade explosive. Good thing she had brought a military-grade explosive. She shaped the breaching charge carefully, placing it to blow the locks without collapsing the tunnel or killing anyone on the other side. The timer gave her 30 seconds to take cover, which meant running back up the tunnel far enough that the blast wave would not pulp her internal organs. She set the timer and ran. The explosion was contained but devastating, a pressure wave that hit her even from 50 yards away and left her ears ringing. Smoke and dust filled the tunnel, but when it cleared, the blast door hung open on broken hinges. Zara approached the opening carefully, her rifle up and ready. The space beyond was dark and quiet. Then she heard a voice, shocked and scared. Someone just blew the evacuation door. It was the ambassador, his voice pitched high with fear. Zara keyed her radio to the embassy's internal frequency. "Mr. Ambassador, this is Corporal Osei. I am in the evacuation tunnel. I need you to listen very carefully. In approximately 45 minutes, Volkov's team is going to breach your main door. They have the tools and the time to do it. Your only chance is to evacuate through this tunnel while they are focused on the wrong entrance." A long pause. Then the ambassador's voice came back, trying for authority and achieving only stress. "Corporal, what is your status? Where are the other Marines? What is happening out there?" "Sir, the other Marines are down. The embassy is compromised by a 40-person paramilitary force. I have been delaying them, but I cannot stop them from breaching your position. You need to move your people now." Another pause. She could hear arguing voices in the background, people scared and confused. Then the ambassador again. "How do we know this is not a trick? How do we know you are really Corporal Osei?" Zara felt frustration rising, but kept her voice level. "Sir, your daughter Emma is in the security office. She is safe. I locked her in there after I took down Volkov's second-in-command. She is wearing princess pajamas, and she has been very brave. Does that convince you?" A new voice came on the line, the ambassador's wife, her tone sharp with a mother's fear. "You saw Emma? She is really okay? She is scared but unhurt. I promised her I would keep everyone safe. Let me keep that promise. Get your people into this tunnel. I will guide you to the exit point 3 blocks away. From there you can reach the Marine barracks and get real help." The voices argued again. Zara checked her watch. 42 minutes until Volkov breached the main door. If it had not moved soon, this entire plan was pointless. Finally, the ambassador came back on. "We are opening our door. If this is a trap, Corporal, I will personally ensure you are court-martialed. If this is a trap, sir, court-martial will be the least of our worries." The interior blast door of the safe room began to cycle open, massive locks disengaging with mechanical precision. Zara kept her rifle ready, just in case, but what emerged was exactly what she hoped for. 32 civilians, scared and exhausted, blinking in the chemical light of the tunnel. The ambassador's wife saw Zara and immediately grabbed her arm. "Where is Emma? Take me to Emma right now." "Ma'am, I need to get all of you to safety first. Emma is secure and protected. She will stay that way until I can retrieve her. But right now, Volkov thinks you are all still in that safe room. The moment he realizes you are gone, he will start hunting. We need distance." A young embassy staffer, barely out of college, raised a shaking hand. "What about you? Are you coming with us?" Zara shook her head. "Someone needs to make Volkov think you are still in the safe room. Someone needs to keep him focused on the wrong target while you escape. That someone is me." The ambassador found his voice again, and this time there was something like respect in it. "You're going to hold off 40 trained soldiers by yourself?" She smiled without humor. "I have been doing that for the last 2 hours, sir. I can manage another 30 minutes. But only if you move." Now, they moved. Zara led them to the tunnel exit, a disguised maintenance access 3 blocks from the embassy in a location that Volkov's perimeter would not be watching. She showed them the release mechanism and gave the ambassador simple instructions. "Get to the Marine barracks. Tell them what is happening. Tell them to send the quick reaction force with heavy weapons and authorization to engage. And tell them that Corporal Zara Osei is still inside, trying to keep Volkov contained." The ambassador's wife gripped her hand one more time. "Bring my daughter back." "I will. I promise." Then they were gone, disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness, and Zara was alone again. 13 minutes until Volkov's team breached an empty safe room. She needed to be far away when that happened, in a position where she could exploit the confusion. But first, she needed to check on Emma. She made her way back through the tunnel, moving faster now that she did not have to shepherd civilians. The embassy felt different knowing the innocents were safe, the primary objective secured. Everything from this point forward was bonus time, a chance to make Volkov pay for every minute he had terrorized good people. The security office was where she left it, doors still locked, Emma still inside. Zara entered her code, and the lock disengaged. Emma looked up from the chair where she had been crying quietly, saw Zara's face, and ran to her. Zara caught the little girl and held her close, feeling small arms wrap around her neck with desperate strength. "You came back. You promised and you came back." "Of course I did, baby. And guess what? Your mom and dad are safe. They're on their way to get help. You're going to see them very soon." Emma pulled back, hope shining through the tears. "Really? They're okay? Really? But right now, I need to take you somewhere even safer, somewhere the bad man will never find you. Can you be brave just a little bit longer?" Emma nodded, wiping her eyes with determination that broke Zara's heart. "I can be brave. Like you." Zara felt something crack inside her chest, some wall she had built over 6 years of controlled violence and professional distance. This child trusted her completely, believed in her absolutely, and she would burn the whole world down before she let that trust be misplaced. "Okay then, let's go be brave together." She picked Emma up and headed back toward the evacuation tunnel. Behind them, she heard Volkov's voice over the radio, counting down the minutes until he breached a room that would be empty. 36 minutes. Zara smiled. This was about to get interesting. 28 minutes remaining. Zara moved through the embassy with Emma clinging to her back, the little girl's arms wrapped tight around her neck. Getting to the evacuation tunnel meant crossing 2 floors and navigating corridors that Volkov's teams had been systematically clearing for the last hour. But now she had proper armor, proper weapons, and most importantly, she had nothing left to lose. The civilians were safe. Emma would be safe in minutes. Everything after that was just making Volkov regret the day he decided to attack an American embassy. She took the service stairs, moving in silence, broken only by Emma's quiet breathing against her ear. The child had stopped crying, had found some core of strength that Zara recognized from her own childhood. When the world became terrifying, you either broke or you built walls. Emma was building walls, and Zara's heart ached for what that meant about the innocence this night had stolen. The stairwell opened onto the basement level 30 feet from the mechanical room that hid the tunnel entrance. Between Zara and safety stood an empty corridor, too empty, too quiet. Her instincts screamed trap. She keyed Dimitri's stolen radio, listening to the chatter. Volkov's teams were converging on the safe room, preparing for the final breach. 25 minutes until they discovered it was empty. But one team was unaccounted for, their last transmission putting them somewhere on the basement level. Exactly where she needed to go. Zara set Emma down gently, kneeling to look the girl in the eyes. "I need you to wait here for just a minute, okay? Stay in the stairwell, stay quiet, and I promise I will be right back." Emma's lower lip trembled, but she nodded. "You promise?" "I promise. When have I broken a promise to you? Never. And I'm not starting now." Zara moved into the corridor with her rifle up, scanning for threats. The mechanical room door was closed, but not locked, which meant someone had been through it recently. She approached from an angle, using the wall for cover, her finger resting lightly on the trigger. The door exploded outward in a hail of automatic fire. Zara threw herself flat as bullets chewed through the space where she had been standing. 3 shooters coordinated fire, exactly the ambush she had sensed. They had been waiting for her, had anticipated her route. She returned fire from prone position, controlled bursts that forced them back into the mechanical room. One shooter went down, clutching his leg. The other 2 retreated deeper into cover, shouting positions to each other in Russian. Standard tactical problem. 3 hostiles in a fortified position, only one entrance, and she needed that entrance to reach the tunnel. She could try to outflank them, but that would take time she did not have. She could try to suppress and advance, but that was a good way to get killed against competent opposition. Or she could use the one advantage Program 17 had given her that regular soldiers did not have: the willingness to do terrible things in the service of survival. Zara pulled one of her fragmentation grenades, set the fuse for 3 seconds, and threw it not into the mechanical room, but at the ceiling above it. The grenade detonated against the concrete, and suddenly the corridor was full of dust and debris that turned visibility to 0. In that chaos, she moved. She sprinted through the dust cloud, firing blind suppression rounds based on memory of the shooter's positions. One target screamed. Another returned fire, but his shots went high and wide, unable to acquire her through the obscurement. She hit the mechanical room entrance and went low, sliding on her knees under the expected line of fire. The 2 remaining shooters were exactly where she calculated, taking cover behind industrial machinery. She put 2 rounds into the first one center mass before he could adjust his aim. The second shooter was faster, getting his weapon around, but Zara was already moving. She closed the distance in 3 steps and used her rifle as a club, driving the stock into his face with enough force to drop him unconscious. 3 hostiles neutralized in under 10 seconds. Program 17 efficiency. But the noise had been catastrophic. Every team in the embassy would have heard that firefight. She had maybe 2 minutes before this location was swarming with Volkov's operators. Zara ran back to the stairwell and scooped up Emma. The little girl was shaking but had not made a sound during the gunfight. Brave. So impossibly brave. She carried Emma into the mechanical room, found a hidden switch for the false wall, and slipped into the evacuation tunnel. Behind her, she heard boots pounding in the corridor, voices calling out the discovery of their dead and wounded comrades. The false wall sealed shut just as the first operators entered the mechanical room. They would find it eventually. The blood trail would lead them to the entrance, and Volkov was smart enough to figure out what it meant. But by then, Emma would be 3 blocks away, and Zara would be ready for the final phase of her desperate plan. The tunnel seemed longer carrying a child, each step echoing in the confined space. Emma's breathing was rapid against Zara's neck, fear and exhaustion taking their toll. When they finally reached the exit point, dawn was beginning to break outside, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange that seemed obscene given the night's violence. The ambassador and the other civilians were gone, hopefully safe at the Marine barracks by now. Zara carried Emma out into the pre-dawn street and set her down gently. "Okay, baby, I need you to run to that building right there. See the one with the flag? That is where the Marines live. Your mom and dad are there. You run as fast as you can and do not stop for anything. Okay?" Emma's small hand gripped Zara's vest. "Come with me. Please come with me." Zara felt her heart breaking, but kept her voice steady. "I cannot, sweetheart. I have to go back. I have to make sure the bad men do not follow you. But I will see you again very soon. I promise. You keep saying you promise. And I keep keeping those promises, do I not?" Emma threw her arms around Zara one more time, fierce and desperate. "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for being brave right back." Then Emma was running, a small figure in princess pajamas sprinting towards safety in the growing light. Zara watched until the girl disappeared into the Marine barracks, watched until she was certain Emma was safe. Only then did she allow herself to feel the weight of what came next. She was going back into the embassy, back into a building full of armed professionals who now knew she had been systematically dismantling their operation. Back into a situation where the only thing that mattered was making sure Volkov never walked away from this night. Her radio crackled. Volkov's voice was ice and fury. "You evacuated the safe room. You got the civilians out somehow. I am impressed, Corporal, truly, but you have made a critical error." Zara keyed the transmit. "What error is that, Commander? You are still here. You could have left with them, could have escaped while I was focused on the breach. But you came back. That tells me something important about you. You want this to be personal. You want to face me directly." Zara smiled without humor as she entered the tunnel again, heading back toward the embassy. "Maybe I just want to make sure you pay for what you have done. The civilians you terrorized. The crimes you tried to hide. Dmitri who will never hurt another child. Volkov's laugh was bitter. Dmitri is not dead. Wounded, unconscious, but alive. You could have killed him easily, should have by any tactical standard. But you did not. Do you know what that tells me? That I am not a murderer? That you still believe in rules, in honor, in the idea that some lines should not be crossed. That is your weakness, Corporal Osei. I crossed all those lines years ago. I do not have your limitations. Then you have already lost, Commander. Because the moment you lost those limitations, you stopped being an operator and became just another criminal. And criminals always lose in the end. The radio went silent for a long moment. When Volkov spoke again, his voice carried a strange respect. 20 minutes until my team confirms the safe room is empty. When they do, I am pulling everyone back and burning this embassy to the ground with you inside it. No more games. No more honor. Just expedient erasure of a problem. Zara entered the embassy through the tunnel, her rifle ready. You are welcome to try, but I think you will find that harder than you expect. Why is that? Because while you were focused on breaching an empty room, I was rigging this entire building with every explosive device your teams brought with them. The ones you stored in the vehicle bay. The breaching charges you left unguarded. Even Dimitri's personal demolition kit. All of it wired to a dead man switch that is currently in my pocket. Silence. She had his attention now. Here is how this works, Commander. You have two choices. You can stay and try to kill me, in which case I drop the switch and we all die in the largest explosion this city has seen since World War II. Or you can take your wounded, take your survivors, and leave. Right now, before the Marine Quick Reaction Force arrives with enough firepower to turn this into an international incident you cannot hide. More silence. Zara could almost hear him calculating, weighing odds, trying to determine if she was bluffing. She was absolutely bluffing. She had not rigged anything. She had been too busy evacuating civilians and fighting for her life. But Volkov did not know that, and Program 17 had taught her that the most powerful weapon was often the one you convinced your enemy you possessed. His voice came back, carefully neutral. You are lying. Am I? You have been focused on the safe room for the last hour, Commander. You have not been watching your supply points. You have not been maintaining security on your equipment. That is what happens when you assume you have overwhelming advantage. You get sloppy. Another pause. Longer this time. Prove it. Set off one charge. Show me you have what you claim. Zara smiled. If I set off one charge, you will know exactly where it is and send a team to disarm the rest. I am not giving you that information, but I will tell you this. The largest concentration of explosives is in the vehicle bay, where you park your extraction vehicles. You have maybe 3 minutes to decide if you want to risk finding out whether I am bluffing. She heard furious conversation in Russian over the radio, multiple voices arguing. Then Volkov came back, and his voice carried the weight of defeat. You have won this round, Corporal, but this is not over. I know who you are now. I know what you are capable of. And Program 17 never forgets its own. The radio went dead. Through the embassy's security cameras, still functioning in some sections, Zara watched as Volkov's teams began withdrawing. They moved with professional discipline, carrying their wounded, covering their retreat, but they were leaving. 40 professional operators defeated by one Marine and a series of desperate bluffs. Zara waited until the last of them disappeared from camera view, until she heard the sound of vehicles starting and driving away. Only then did she allow herself to sink against the wall, her legs suddenly weak with the adrenaline crash. She had done it. Against impossible odds, with nothing but training and desperation, she had defended the embassy and saved 32 lives. Emma was safe. The ambassador was safe. The evidence of Volkov's crimes was destroyed, but the man himself had fled, which meant the hunt for him would continue in other arenas. Her radio crackled one final time. A new voice, American accent, Marine Corps Authority. This is Captain Rodriguez, Quick Reaction Force. We are approaching the embassy. Identify yourself. Zara keyed the radio with shaking hands. This is Corporal Zara Osei, Marine Security Guard. The embassy is secure. Hostiles have withdrawn. Civilians are safe at the barracks. I am alone and wounded, but operational. Copy that, Corporal. We will have you out of there in 5 minutes. Outstanding work. The ambassador has briefed us on what you accomplished tonight. Zara closed her eyes and let the enormity of survival wash over her. 5 minutes. She could hold on for 5 more minutes. Then she could finally let herself feel everything she had pushed down for the last 3 hours. The fear, the exhaustion, the weight of the lives that had depended on her. But right now, in this moment, she let herself feel something else. Pride. The quick reaction force found Zara sitting against the wall in the basement corridor, surrounded by spent shell casings and the unconscious bodies of Volkov's operators. Captain Rodriguez took one look at the scene and let out a low whistle. Jesus Christ, Corporal. You did all this alone? Zara tried to stand, but her legs refused to cooperate. The adrenaline that had carried her through 3 hours of combat was gone, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion that made movement feel impossible. I had motivation, sir. Rodriguez knelt beside her, his medic already checking her wounds. The shoulder injury from earlier had reopened during the mechanical room fight, and she had not noticed the shrapnel wound in her thigh until the medic pointed it out. Her body was presenting the bill for all the abuse she had subjected it to, and the price was steep. The medic worked quickly, applying pressure bandages and starting in 4. You need a hospital, Corporal. These wounds need proper treatment. Zara shook her head. Emma, the ambassador's daughter. I need to see her first. I promised. Rodriguez put a hand on her shoulder. The kid is safe. She has been asking for you every 2 minutes since she arrived. Keeps telling everyone about the brave Marine who saved her. You're a hero, Osei. The word felt wrong in her mouth. Heroes did not use the tactics she had used. Heroes did not draw on training from a program that officially did not exist. Heroes did not bluff their way out of impossible situations by threatening to blow up an embassy. I just did my job, sir. Rodriguez laughed, but there was admiration in it. Your job is to guard the embassy and protect American personnel. You did that against a 40-person paramilitary force with nothing but a rifle and apparently balls of solid titanium. That is a little above the standard job description. They carried her out on a stretcher despite her protests. The embassy grounds in daylight showed the full scope of the assault. Blast damage to the West Wing. Bullet holes in walls. Scorch marks from her improvised explosives. The place looked like a war zone, which she supposed was accurate. The Marine barracks was organized chaos. Embassy staff being debriefed, wounded operators from Volkov's force being treated under guard, and in the center of it all, Emma. The little girl saw Zara being carried in and broke free from her mother's arms, running across the room with a speed that made the adults scramble to catch her. Miss Zara, you came back. You promised. Zara sat up on the stretcher despite the medic's objections and caught Emma in a hug that hurt her wounds and healed something deeper. I always keep my promises, remember? Emma's mother reached them, tears streaming down her face. She did not speak, just put her hand on Zara's arm and squeezed with a gratitude that needed no words. The ambassador stood behind his wife, and his expression had completely changed from the suspicious man in the safe room. He looked at Zara like she had personally carried his world out of hell, which, Zara reflected, was not entirely inaccurate. A new voice cut through the reunion. Corporal Osei, I need a word. Zara looked up to find a woman in civilian clothes, but with military bearing, flanked by 2 men in suits that screamed intelligence services. The woman's credentials identified her as Sarah Chun, Defense Intelligence Agency. This was not going to be a friendly conversation. Rodriguez stepped between them. Agent Chun, Corporal Osei, is wounded and needs medical attention. The debrief can wait. Chen's smile did not reach her eyes. The debrief cannot wait, Captain. Corporal Osei engaged with a hostile force that has international implications. We need to understand exactly what happened here, and we need to understand it now. Zara gently disentangled herself from Emma and stood, ignoring her body's protests. It is fine, sir. Let's get this over with. They took her to a secure room, just Zara and the 3 DIA personnel. Chen sat across from her with a tablet and a recorder. The 2 men positioned themselves by the door, silent and watchful. The whole setup was designed to be intimidating, and it was working. Chun started with the easy questions. Timeline. Enemy numbers. Tactics employed. Zara answered mechanically, her training providing the words while her mind drifted. But then Chun shifted to different territory. Tell me about Commander Kazimir Volkov. How did you know his name? He identified himself over the radio. And what else did he tell you? That he was here to retrieve classified information. That he had trained at the same facility I did. Chen's expression sharpened. What facility would that be, Corporal? Zara met her eyes and said nothing. Program 17 did not exist in any official capacity. Admitting knowledge of it would open doors she had spent 6 years trying to keep closed. One of the men by the door spoke for the first time. His voice was flat and cold. Corporal Osei, we are aware of your history before your Marine Corps service. We know about your contractor work. We know about Prague. What we need to understand is whether that history compromised this situation. Zara felt anger rising through the exhaustion. My history is the only reason 32 civilians are alive right now. If I had been a standard Marine security guard with standard training, Volkov would have rolled through this embassy in 10 minutes. Chun leaned forward. That is precisely what concerns us, Corporal. You single-handedly defeated a professional military operation. You used tactics and techniques that are not part of Marine Corps training. You demonstrated capabilities that raise questions about where your loyalties actually lie. The accusation hung in the air like a physical presence. Zara understood what was happening. They were not debriefing her. They were investigating her, looking for any hint that she had been compromised, that maybe she had been working with Volkov all along. Her voice came out cold and precise, the tone Program 17 used for hostile interrogations. I used the training I received from a program your agency probably funded to defend American personnel against an attack your intelligence failures did not predict. I am wounded, exhausted, and I just spent 3 hours being the only thing standing between innocent people and a war criminal. If you want to question my loyalty, Agent Chun, I invite you to go to hell. The room went silent. The two men by the door shifted, hands moving toward weapons they wore concealed. Chen's expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition of a kindred operator. Tell me about the bluff. The explosives you claim to have rigged. There were no explosives. I used psychology and Volkov's paranoia to force a withdrawal I could not achieve through force of arms. It worked. And the server destruction? Why did you prioritize that over civilian safety? Because the data on those servers was the only thing Volkov wanted. Once it was destroyed, his mission was compromised and his incentive to harm civilians diminished. It was a calculated risk that paid off. Chun studied her for a long moment. You think tactically, Corporal. You assess situations and make hard calls. That is admirable. It is also dangerous. Operators with your capabilities and your willingness to improvise make command nervous. They do not fit neatly into chains of command. Zara leaned back, wincing as her wounds protested. Is there a question in there, Agent Chun, or are you just philosophizing about the problems with competence? One of the men by the door actually smiled at that. Chun did not. Here's my question, Corporal Osei. Volkov said he would remember you. Said Program 17 never forgets its own. What did he mean by that? It meant he recognized a fellow graduate. It meant he knew I was trained in the same systems he was. It meant he understood that I was not going to back down. Chun nodded slowly. Volkov is currently international fugitive. Multiple countries want him for war crimes. The evidence you destroyed would have helped prosecute him, but it also would have exposed operational methods we prefer to keep classified. Your decision to destroy that data may have served larger interests than you understood. Zara felt sick. So this was what it came down to. She had destroyed evidence not just to deny it to Volkov, but to protect the same intelligence apparatus that had created monsters like him in the first place. Chun stood, signaling the interview was over. You are a complicated asset, Corporal Osei. Good at your job, loyal to your people, but carrying history that makes you a liability in some eyes. My recommendation will be that you receive commendation for your actions tonight. But I will also recommend that you be monitored. People with your skills and your past do not just disappear in a normal life. Is that a threat, Agent Chun? It is a reality. Welcome to the world of being too good at the wrong things. They left her alone in the room, and Zara put her head in her hands. She had saved everyone. She had done the impossible. And her reward was to be flagged as a security risk, watched and monitored like she was the threat instead of the solution. The door opened again. She expected Rodriguez or the medic, but instead it was an older man in a suit she did not recognize. He moved with the controlled grace of someone who had been dangerous once and chose not to be anymore. Corporal Osei, my name is Marcus Webb. I ran Program 17 before it was officially shuttered. I heard about what happened here. I came to say well done. Zara looked up at him. If you're here to recruit me back into whatever Program 17 became, the answer is no. Webb smiled. I'm not here to recruit you, Corporal. I am here to warn you. Volkov was not lying when he said the program never forgets. You embarrassed him tonight. You beat him using the same training he received. Men like Volkov do not handle that kind of defeat well. So what are you saying? That he will come after me? I'm saying that you should be careful. Watch your six. Trust your instincts. And if you ever need help that the Marine Corps cannot provide, you call this number. He handed her a card with nothing on it but a phone number. Then he was gone, leaving Zara alone with new fears to add to her exhaustion. The medic finally got her to the hospital, where they treated her wounds properly and pumped her full of antibiotics and painkillers. She drifted in and out of consciousness, dreams mixing with memories of the night's violence. In her dreams, Volkov was always just around the corner, always one step ahead, always remembering. When she woke fully, Emma was sitting beside her bed, coloring in a book. The little girl looked up and smiled. Miss Theta. Mom said I could sit with you if I was quiet. You're very good at being quiet. I learned it from you. You were quiet when you saved me. Zara felt tears threatening and pushed them back. How are you doing, sweetheart? Are you okay? Emma considered the question with the seriousness only children could manage. I have bad dreams. About the explosions and the scary men. But then I remember you promised to keep me safe, and you did. So maybe the dreams will go away eventually. Maybe they will, or maybe you will just get better at dealing with them. Is that what happened to you? Zara had no good answer for that. Instead, she changed the subject. Were you coloring? Emma held up the book. It was a picture of a Marine in dress uniform. She had colored the uniform with careful precision, getting all the details right. That is for you. Because you are a hero. I'm just a Marine, Emma. You are my hero, and I'm going to be brave like you when I grow up. Zara pulled the little girl into a gentle hug, careful of her injuries. You're already brave, Emma. You're the bravest person I know. Later, after Emma left with her parents, after the hospital discharged her with instructions to rest and recover, Zara sat in her barracks room and looked at the card Marcus Webb had given her. Just a phone number. Just a connection to a past she had tried to leave behind. She should throw it away. Should cut all ties to Program 17 and everything it represented. Should embrace the Marine Corps life she had chosen, the clean and honorable path. But as she sat there in the darkness, her wounds aching and Volkov's final words echoing in her mind, Zara knew she would keep the card. Because Chim was right about one thing. She was too good at the wrong things. And in a world where men like Volkov existed, maybe that was exactly what was needed. She tucked the card into her wallet and tried to sleep. Tomorrow would bring commendations and questions, ceremonies and investigations. But tonight, she allowed herself to simply exist in the space between who she had been and who she was becoming. A ghost who had chosen the light. A warrior who protected the innocent. A Marine who would always keep her promises, no matter what it cost her. 3 weeks after the embassy attack, Zara stood at attention in her dress blues, while a 2-star general pinned the Navy Cross to her chest. The second highest military decoration for valor. The citation read like fiction, single-handedly defended embassy against overwhelming force, saved 32 American lives, demonstrated extraordinary heroism under fire. The ceremony was held at Marine Barracks, with every dignitary who could claim connection to the event in attendance. The ambassador gave a speech about courage and dedication. Emma's mother cried openly in the front row. Emma herself sat beside her parents, wearing a dress the color of the American flag, beaming with pride every time she caught Zara's eye. But Zara could not stop scanning the crowd for threats, could not stop checking exits and calculating fields of fire, could not shake the feeling that Volkov was watching from somewhere, planning his response to the humiliation she had dealt him. 3 weeks, and she had not slept a full night. Every shadow held enemies. Every unexpected sound sent her hand toward a weapon she was not carrying. The Marine Corps psychiatrist had used words like hypervigilance and post-traumatic stress, had recommended counseling and time to decompress. What the psychiatrist did not understand was that Zara was not stressed about what had happened. She was stressed about what was coming. After the ceremony, during the reception, the ambassador pulled her aside. His expression was serious despite the celebratory atmosphere. "Corporal Osei, I owe you an apology. When you contacted us in the safe room, I doubted you. I questioned whether we could trust you. That was shameful, and I am sorry." Zara shook her head. "You are protecting your people, sir. That is never shameful. You made the right call to be cautious. Emma told me what you did, how you came back for her even when it was dangerous, how you promised you would keep her safe, and you did. Do you know what she told me when I asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up? A Marine?" The ambassador smiled. "She said she wanted to be like Corporal Zara, brave and strong, and someone who keeps promises. You gave my daughter a hero to believe in. I can never repay that." Before Zara could respond, Agent Shun appeared at her elbow. The DIA officer looked as severe as ever in a dark suit that matched her expression. "Corporal Osei, a moment of your time." The ambassador recognized a dismissal when he heard one and excused himself. Shun led Zara to a quiet corner of the reception hall, away from the crowd and the cameras. "Congratulations on your commendation, Corporal. Well deserved." Zara waited. Shun had not pulled her aside to offer compliments. "We have a problem. Volkov has resurfaced. 3 days ago, he orchestrated a prison break in Romania that freed 6 of his former associates. 2 days ago, those associates robbed a black market arms dealer in Prague. Yesterday, someone matching Volkov's description was spotted in Morocco." Zara felt ice forming in her stomach. What is he doing? Rebuilding, recruiting, preparing for something. We are not sure what yet, but all the intelligence suggests he is not finished. And you are the reason he lost everything at the embassy. His mission failed, his reputation took a hit, and he was forced to retreat from a single Marine. Men like Volkov do not forgive that kind of embarrassment. So you think he is coming for me? Chin's expression confirmed it. "We think it is a possibility you need to take seriously. I have arranged for increased security monitoring of your movements. Plainclothes officers will be watching your quarters, your routes, anywhere you might be vulnerable." Zara thought about what it meant to live under constant surveillance, to have watchers monitoring her every move. It sounded like prison with extra steps. "No thank you, Agent Shun. I can protect myself." "Corporal, this is not a suggestion. Volkov commands resources and personnel that make him an extremely dangerous enemy. You cannot fight him alone. I defended an embassy alone against 40 of his people. I think I can handle surveillance on one man." Chin's voice dropped to something cold and final. "That was defensive tactics in terrain you controlled. This is different. Volkov will choose the time and place. He will have advantages you cannot predict. And if you refuse our protection, you are making it easier for him to kill you." The words hung between them. Zara understood the calculation Chin was making. If Volkov succeeded in killing her, it would be one less operator with uncomfortable knowledge walking around. If Volkov failed, they would have an opportunity to capture or eliminate him. Either way, DIA won. "I will take my chances, Agent Chen." "Then you are a fool," Corporal Osei. "And fools do not survive very long in our world." Chen walked away, leaving Zara alone with her medal and her paranoia. She looked across the reception hall to where Emma was showing the Navy Cross to her friends, telling them the story with wild hand gestures and a child's enthusiasm for adventure. That little girl believed Zara was invincible, believed promises meant something, believed the good guys always won. Zara could not let Volkov take that belief away. That night, back in her bear's quarters, Zara pulled out the card Marcus Webb had given her. She stared at the number for a long time before making the call. Webb answered on the second ring. Corporal Osei, I've been expecting your call. How did you know I would call? Because Volkov has resurfaced, and you are smart enough to recognize what that means. You need help, but you do not trust the DIA to provide it. That leaves very few options. Zara heard the unspoken question in his words. What do you want from me, sir? Webb's laugh was dry and humorless. I'm not in the business of wanting things from people anymore, Corporal. I got out of that world for a reason. But I am in the business of helping former Program 17 graduates who find themselves in situations the regular world cannot handle. Volkov is one of those situations. Can you stop him? Not from here, but I can give you resources, information, training partners who understand what you are up against. The question is whether you are willing to accept that help. What is the price? Webb was silent for a moment. The price is acknowledging that you are not just a Marine anymore. You're something else, something that exists in the spaces between official and unofficial. That is a hard thing to accept, especially for someone who joined the Corps to find a cleaner path. Zara thought about Emma's face when she talked about being brave, thought about the ambassador's gratitude, thought about 32 people who were alive because she had been willing to use the darker skills Program 17 had taught her. I accepted that 3 weeks ago, sir. When I destroyed those servers and bluffed Volkov into retreating, I used everything Program 17 taught me, and I would do it again. The question is not whether I am still just a Marine. The question is whether I can be both. Webb's approval was clear in his voice. That is the right answer, Corporal. Stay where you are. Someone will contact you within 24 hours. They will give you information on Volkov's movements and capabilities. What you do with that information is your choice. And if I choose to go after him, then you will have support. Unofficial, deniable, but real. Because Program 17 might be shuttered, but the people it trains still look after each other. Even the ones who try to walk away. The line went dead. Zara sat in the darkness of her quarters, the Navy Cross on her desk reflecting ambient light, and wondered what she had just agreed to. She was a Marine. She had taken an oath to follow orders, to work within the system, to be the honorable warrior the Corps demanded. But she was also a ghost, trained to operate in shadows, to make impossible choices, to do terrible things in service of necessary outcomes. Maybe Chin was right. Maybe she was a fool for thinking she could be both. But Emma deserved a world where promises meant something, where the good guys kept fighting even when the fight got dark. And if being both Marine and Ghost was what it took to protect that world, then Zara would find a way to make it work. The next morning, during her regular run, a jogger fell in a pace beside her. The woman looked like any other fitness enthusiast, but her eyes were too alert, her movements too controlled. Former military, definitely. Possibly Program 17. The woman spoke without looking at Zara, her voice barely audible over the sound of their footfalls. Volkov is in Tangier. He is meeting with a financier who specializes in funding revenge operations. The meeting is in 3 days at a location we have identified. If you are interested in ending this threat before it fully materializes, that would be the time. Zara kept running, her breathing steady. I'm a Marine. I cannot just disappear to Morocco on a personal vendetta. The woman smiled. You have 30 days of leave accumulated. And Morocco is lovely this time of year. Very educational for a young Marine interested in international security. What happens if I go? You will have support on the ground. Intelligence, equipment, extraction if things go wrong. But you will also be operating outside official channels. If you're caught, there will be no rescue. No acknowledgement. You become a rogue operator who violated international law. And if I succeed, then Volkov stops being a threat. To you, to the people you protect, to anyone else he might target. You get to sleep at night knowing he cannot hurt Emma or her family. Is that not worth the risk? The woman peeled off at the next intersection, disappearing into the morning crowd before Zara could respond. But the message was clear. She had a choice to make. Stay safe within the system and hope Volkov never made good on his implied threat. or step into the shadows and end this on her terms. That afternoon, Zara submitted a leave request. 30 days. Personal time. The request was approved within hours, no questions asked. Someone in the chain of command knew what she was planning and had cleared the path. She spent 2 days preparing. Physical training to ensure her wounds were fully healed. Research on Tangier and the surrounding area. Mental preparation for what it meant to hunt a man instead of defending a position. On the 3rd day, she boarded a civilian flight to Morocco with nothing but a backpack and the phone number Marcus Webb had given her. As the plane lifted off, Zara looked down at the receding coastline and thought about boundaries. The line between defense and offense. Between protecting and hunting. Between marine and ghost. She was about to cross all of them. Emma had given her a drawing before she left, a picture of Zara in her uniform with the words "My hero" written in careful crayon. Zara had tucked it into her wallet next to Webb's card, a reminder of why this mattered. Promises were meant to be kept, and she had promised Emma that the bad men would not come back. Volkov was about to discover what happened when someone pushed a ghost too far, when someone threatened the people she had sworn to protect, when someone made the mistake of thinking mercy was weakness. The plane leveled off at cruising altitude, and Zara closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to focus, to center herself for what was coming. In 3 days, she would be in Tangier. In 3 days, she would face Volkov again, but this time on her terms, with her preparation, in a place where the rules of engagement were written by necessity instead of protocol. In 3 days, one way or another, this would end. She opened her eyes and looked at her reflection in the airplane window. The face staring back was both marine and ghost, both protector and hunter, both light and shadow. Maybe that was okay. Maybe the world needed people who could walk that line, who could be both the hero children believed in and the operator who did what heroes could not. Emma believed in her. That was enough. Zara settled into her seat and began planning for Tangier. The hunt was on. Tangier smelled like salt water and diesel fuel, a port city where 3 continents met and secrets changed hands like currency. Zara moved through the Medina with the careful anonymity of someone who had done this before, her appearance altered enough to avoid casual recognition. Dark sunglasses, hijab covering her distinctive hair, posture adjusted to look like a tourist instead of a predator. The contact Webb had promised met her in a cafe overlooking the Strait of Gibraltar. He was Moroccan, middle-aged, with eyes that had seen too much. He introduced himself as Rashid and spoke English with a British accent that suggested education abroad. Volkov arrives tomorrow night. The meeting is at a warehouse in the Port District, owned by a shell company that specializes in untraceable transactions. He will have at least 4 bodyguards, possibly more. The financier, a man named Costas, will have his own security. You will be outnumbered and operating in hostile territory. Zara sipped her mint tea and studied the photograph Rashid slid across the table. The warehouse was concrete and steel, 2 stories, multiple exits. Difficult to assault, easier to observe. How good is your intelligence on the interior layout? Rashid produced a tablet with detailed schematics. We have someone on Costas's payroll. The meeting will take place on the 2nd floor, in an office with reinforced windows and a single entrance. Volkov is paranoid after what happened at the embassy. He will check for surveillance, for ambush points, for any sign this is a trap. Then we make sure it does not look like a trap. What assets do I have? Rashid's smile was thin. You have me for intelligence and logistics. You have a weapons cache at a safe house I will show you. And you have the element of surprise. Volkov expects you to be in America, licking your wounds and accepting your medal. He does not expect you to bring the fight to him. Zara studied the schematics, her mind already working through approach vectors and contingencies. I need eyes on the warehouse tonight. I need to know his security patterns, his arrival procedures, any advantage I can exploit. That could be arranged. But Corporal Osei, you should understand something. This is not a sanctioned operation. You kill Volkov on Moroccan soil, you create an international incident. You get caught, no one is coming to save you. I know. That is why I'm not planning to get caught. They spent the rest of the day preparing. The safe house was a nondescript apartment in the European Quarter, and the weapons cache was everything Zara needed. A suppressed pistol, a compact submachine gun, explosives, surveillance equipment. Someone had invested significant resources in making this operation possible. That night, from a rooftop across from the warehouse, Zara watched Volkov's advance team arrive. They moved with professional competence, checking sight lines, establishing security protocols, preparing for their commander's arrival. She counted 6 men, all armed, all former military by the way they carried themselves. Rashid spoke quietly beside her, tracking the movements through a spotting scope. They are good. Not as good as the team at the embassy, but competent. Volkov is taking this meeting seriously. Because Kostas has money, and money means resources. Volkov needs both to rebuild what I destroyed. The question is whether he knows I am here. If he knew, he would not come. He is arrogant, but not suicidal. Zara was not so sure. Men like Volkov did not run from fights. They prepared for them, planned for them, turned them to advantage. If he suspected she was in Tangier, he might see it as an opportunity to end their conflict on his terms. She spent the night mapping the warehouse district, identifying routes and fallback positions. The port was a maze of containers and cranes, shipping offices and customs checkpoints. Good terrain for escape and evasion, terrible terrain for a stand-up fight. She would need to be smart about this, surgical instead of aggressive. The next evening, as the sun set over the Atlantic, Zara took position in an empty shipping office with clear sight lines to the warehouse. She was dressed in dark tactical clothing, her face covered, her weapons checked and ready. Rashid had withdrawn to a support position with communications equipment, ready to provide updates or call for extraction if everything went wrong. Volkov arrived exactly on time. He stepped out of a black Mercedes, flanked by 4 bodyguards who scanned the area with professional paranoia. Even from a distance, Zara could see the change in him. He moved with more caution now, less confident in his invulnerability. The embassy had taught him that he could be beaten. Good. Fear made people sloppy. He disappeared into the warehouse, his security team taking positions outside. Zara waited, counting minutes, watching patterns. The guards rotated every 15 minutes, a standard protocol that created brief windows of vulnerability. She would use those windows. Rashid's voice crackled in her earpiece. Kostas has arrived. Meeting is beginning. You have maybe 30 minutes before they conclude their business. 30 minutes to get inside, to reach the second floor, to confront Volkov without alerting his entire security team. The smart play would be to wait for him to leave, to take him during transit when he was most vulnerable. But transit meant innocent bystanders, meant potential collateral damage, meant variables she could not control. No, this ended inside the warehouse, where the only people at risk were those who had chosen this life. Zara moved during the guard rotation, crossing open ground in the brief gap between observation points. She reached the warehouse's eastern wall and used a glass cutter to create an entry point through a ground floor window. The interior was dark and filled with shipping containers, providing cover as she made her way to the stairs. The second floor was more exposed. Offices with glass walls, a central corridor leading to the reinforced meeting room where Volkov and Kostas were conducting their business. 2 guards stood outside the meeting room door, alert and armed. Zara considered her options. Direct assault would trigger a response she could not contain. Stealth might get her close, but the moment she opened that door, every guard in the building would converge. She needed a third option, something that would give her the advantage without triggering a war. Her eyes found the building's electrical panel. Old infrastructure, probably not up to modern safety codes. A small explosive charge in the right place would kill the lights without causing structural damage. Darkness was her ally, always had been. She set the charge on a 2-minute delay and took position near the meeting room. When the explosion came, it was a muffled crack followed by total blackness. The guards outside the door shouted in Russian, pulling flashlights and calling for status reports. Zara moved through the darkness like she had been born to it, her night vision goggles turning the hallway into green clarity. She took down the first guard with a strike to the throat that left him gasping and unconscious. The second guard was turning, weapon coming up, when she hit him with a combination that dropped him before he could fire. She breached the meeting room door with explosive force, her weapon up and tracking for threats. Volkov was already moving, diving for cover behind a desk, his own weapon appearing in his hand with practiced speed. Kostas was slower, fumbling for a pistol that Zara shot out of his hand before he could aim it. The room held position for a frozen moment. Zara with her weapon on Volkov, Volkov behind, cover with his weapon on her approximate position, Kostas clutching his wounded hand and cursing in Greek. Volkov's voice cut through the darkness, speaking in English for her benefit. "Corporal Osei, I should have known you would not wait for me to come to you. Always so proactive, so determined." Zara kept her weapon steady, tracking the sound of his voice. "It is over, Volkov. Come out from behind the desk and surrender. Face trial for what you have done." His laugh was bitter. "Trial? You mean public execution dressed up as justice? No, thank you. I would rather take my chances here, with you, in the dark where we both learn to fight. Then we fight." But Kostas walks away. He is not part of this. Volkov considered that. "Agreed. Kostas, leave now. Tell your associates that doing business with Kazimir Volkov carries unexpected complications." The financier needed no further encouragement. He scrambled for the door, leaving a trail of blood from his wounded hand. Zara let him go. This was between her and Volkov now, operator to operator, ghost to ghost. "You destroyed my life, Corporal. My reputation, my mission, my future. All of it gone because one American Marine was too stubborn to die properly. You destroyed your own life when you chose to become a war criminal. I just made sure the evidence could not save you. Evidence you also destroyed. How convenient for your government. They wanted those files gone as much as I did. You served their interests perfectly." The words hit harder than Zara wanted to admit. She had wondered about that, about whether her choice to destroy the servers had played into larger calculations she did not fully understand. But doubt was a weapon Volkov was trying to use against her, and she would not give him that satisfaction. "I did what was necessary to protect innocent people. That is the difference between us. You kill to protect yourself. I fight to protect others." Volkov moved, and Zara tracked the sound, firing twice. The round sparked off metal, missing by inches. He returned fire, forcing her into cover. They were circling now, two predators in darkness, using sound and instinct to hunt each other. "You think you're the hero, Corporal? You think wearing a uniform makes you different from me? We are the same, products of the same machine, trained in the same methods, comfortable with the same violence. The only difference is the flag you serve." Zara fired again, her rounds forcing him to relocate. "I serve people, Volkov. Real people with real lives. That little girl, Emma, her parents, everyone in that embassy. They were not abstract targets. They were human beings who deserved protection. And the men you killed at the embassy? Were they not human beings? Did they not have families waiting for them?" The question landed like a physical blow. Zara had not let herself think about the operators she had fought, about their humanity beyond their threat level. They had been enemies, obstacles, problems to solve. But Volkov was right. They had been people too. Her hesitation cost her. Volkov rushed her position, faster than she anticipated, his combat skills honed by decades of violence. They collided in the darkness, weapons forgotten in favor of close-quarters brutality. Punches and counters, grappling and breaks, the kind of fighting Program 17 had taught them both. He was bigger, stronger, more experienced. But Zara was younger, faster, and had something he did not have anymore. She had something worth fighting for beyond survival. They broke apart, both breathing hard, both wounded from the exchange. Zara's night vision goggles had been knocked off, leaving her in darkness equal to his. Now was pure skill, pure instinct, pure determination. Volkov's voice came from somewhere to her left. "You cannot win this, Corporal. Even if you kill me here, my people will know. They will hunt you. They will find everyone you care about. That little girl who thinks you are a hero. The ambassador. Your fellow Marines. All of them will pay for what you do tonight. Zara felt rage burning through the exhaustion, hot and pure. You threaten them. You guarantee I will never stop hunting you. Surrender now, face justice, and maybe they stay safe. His laugh was genuine and cruel. Justice? There is no justice for men like us. Only survival or death. And I have survived worse than you. And I guess we see who survives this. She moved toward his voice, her hands ready for combat, her mind clear with purpose. They met in the darkness again, and this time there was no holding back. Every technique Program 17 had taught them, every brutal lesson learned in dark places, all of it deployed with lethal intent. Zara took hits that would have dropped a normal person. She delivered strikes that should have ended the fight. But Volkov was a survivor, had always been a survivor, and he refused to go down. Until Zara remembered something Emma had said. About being brave. About keeping promises. About believing the good guys always won. She stopped trying to fight like Volkov and started fighting like herself. Not the ghost that Program 17 had created, but the Marine who had defended an embassy with nothing but determination and love for the people she protected. The shift was subtle but decisive. Her strikes became more precise, more efficient, focused on disabling instead of destroying. She was not trying to kill him anymore. She was trying to save everyone he might hurt by keeping him alive for trial. The change threw off Volkov's timing. He had been fighting a ghost. Now he was fighting something he did not understand. A warrior who chose mercy even in violence. Zara's final combination sent him crashing into a wall, dazed and hurt but alive. She recovered her weapon and pressed it against his head, her voice steady despite the pain radiating through her body. "It is over, Commander. You're done." Volkov looked up at her from the floor, blood streaming from a cut above his eye, and smiled. "That is your weakness, Corporal. You still believe in justice. You still think the system works. Pull that trigger or let me go, because anything else is just delaying the inevitable." Zara pressed the weapon harder against his temple. "You're going to stand trial. You're going to face the people whose lives you destroyed. That is how this ends." He laughed, wet and painful. "You really believe that? You think Moroccan authorities will extradite me? You think international courts will prosecute a man who knows where all the bodies are buried? I have information on operations that span 3 decades, governments that claimed ignorance of rendition programs, intelligence agencies that funded warlords and terrorists. They will cut deals with me to keep me quiet. I will walk free within a year." The terrible thing was that he might be right. Zara had seen enough of the intelligence world to know that justice and expediency rarely aligned. Men like Volkov traded in secrets, and secrets had value that trumped accountability. Her radio crackled. Rashid's voice was urgent. "Corporal, Volkov's security team is rallying. They will breach your position in less than 2 minutes. You need to extract now." Zara kept her weapon steady. "I am bringing Volkov with me." That was not the plan. The plan was elimination, not capture. You cannot transport a prisoner through Tangier without being caught. Plans change. I am not executing an unarmed man. Volkov's smile widened. "Such honor. Such principles. Program 17 must be so disappointed in you." "Shut up." Zara grabbed him by the collar and hauled him to his feet. "We are leaving through the east exit. You try anything, I shoot you in the leg and drag you. Understand?" He nodded, still smiling, and Zara knew he was planning something. Men like Volkov always had contingencies, always had one more card to play. She would need to stay alert, stay ahead of whatever he was plotting. They moved through the darkened warehouse, Zara pushing Volkov ahead of her, weapon trained on his back. Behind them, she heard the security team breaching the second floor, shouting as they discovered their unconscious comrades and empty meeting room. The east exit opened into an alley lined with shipping containers. Rashid had positioned a motorcycle there for quick extraction, but it was designed for 1 person, maybe 2 in an emergency. Not ideal for transporting a prisoner. Zara forced Volkov onto the bike behind her. "Your hands stay where I can see them. You try to choke me or grab the controls. I crash us both and shoot you while we are down." He wrapped his arms around her waist with mocking compliance. So intimate, Corporal. If circumstances were different, this might be romantic. If circumstances were different, you would be in prison where you belong. She kicked the motorcycle to life and accelerated into the narrow streets of the Port District. Behind them, she heard engines starting, saw headlights sweeping through the darkness. Volkov's team was in pursuit, and they would not stop until they recovered their commander or confirmed his death. The motorcycle screamed through tangier streets, weaving between cars and pedestrians with reckless speed. Zara's earpiece filled with Rashid's voice, calling out turns and warning of roadblocks. The safe house was 3 miles away, an eternity when being pursued by professional killers. Volkov spoke into her ear, his voice barely audible over the engine. You cannot outrun them forever. Eventually you will make a mistake, and they will kill us both. Let me go now, and you can disappear. This can end without more violence. Not happening. Then you're choosing death. For both of us. Is that really what your little Emma would want? For her hero to die in a foreign city over a man who is not worth saving? The mention of Emma sent rage through Zara's body. Do not talk about her. You do not get to use her name. Why not? She is the reason you are doing this, is she not? The reason you cannot just execute me and be done with it. You promised her the bad men would not come back. You promised her the world made sense. And now you're trying to keep that promise, even when it means risking everything. He was right, and Zara hated him for it. Emma's face haunted every decision she made, every choice between expedience and principle. The little girl believed in heroes who kept promises, who made the world safe, who proved that good could triumph over evil. How could Zara be that hero if she executed an unarmed man? But how could she be that hero if she died trying to deliver a prisoner who might never face real justice? A black SUV pulled alongside them, and Zara saw the passenger window rolling down, saw the weapon emerging. She jerked the motorcycle into a hard turn, accelerating through a gap between parked cars that was barely wide enough. The SUV could not follow, forced to brake hard to avoid collision. 2 more vehicles joined the pursuit. Volkov's team was committed now, willing to risk public attention to recover their commander. Sirens wailed in the distance. Moroccan police responding to reports of a high-speed chase through residential neighborhoods. Rashid's voice was grim. You have multiple hostiles converging and local authorities responding. The safe house is compromised. I am sending new coordinates. Commercial port. Shipping container marked with red X. Be there in 8 minutes or you're on your own. 8 minutes. Zara checked her mirrors and counted 4 pursuit vehicles. The motorcycle was faster but less stable, especially with a passenger who might decide cooperation was not in his best interest. Volkov seemed to read her thoughts. You know I could end this right now. Grab the handlebars, force a crash, take my chances with my own people instead of whatever you have planned. Why do you think I have not? Because you are curious. You want to see if I can actually pull this off. He laughed. Perhaps. Or perhaps I recognize something of myself in you. The stubborn refusal to accept reality. The belief that we can be more than what Program 17 made us. I had that belief once, before the world taught me otherwise. The world did not teach you anything, Volkov. You chose to become what you are. You chose war crimes and cover-ups and terrorizing innocent people. Do not pretend that was inevitable. Was it not? We were trained to operate in moral gray zones, to make impossible choices, to do terrible things for supposedly greater goods. The only difference between us is that you still believe the greater goods are real. I learned they were lies told to make us compliant. Zara took a sharp corner, the motorcycle leaning at an angle that would have terrified a civilian rider. The pursuit vehicles struggled to match her maneuverability, falling back by precious seconds. Maybe the greater goods are lies sometimes. Maybe the people who trained us were using us. But that does not mean innocent people like Emma and her family deserve to suffer. That does not mean we get to abandon all principles just because the system is broken. Principles are luxuries, Corporal. Survival is necessity. Then I guess I am choosing luxury over necessity. The commercial port loomed ahead, a maze of containers and cranes that stretched for miles. Rashid's coordinates led to a section of the port that was quiet, dark, officially closed for the night. Zara spotted the red X on a container and drove straight for it. The container door was already open. She killed the engine and dragged Volkov inside, her weapon never wavering. The interior was fitted out as a mobile command post, with communications equipment and a small arsenal. Rashid was there with 2 other men, both armed, both wearing expressions that said they had seen violence before. Rashid spoke quickly. We have maybe 5 minutes before his team triangulates this location. There's a cargo ship leaving from Malta in 20 minutes. The captain owes favors to people I work with. He will take you both aboard, no questions asked. From Malta, you can arrange official handover to American authorities. Volkov smiled at the plan. Malta, European Union territory, extradition treaties, due process. You really are committed to this fantasy of justice. One of Rashid's men stepped forward with zip ties and a hood. We secure him now, Corporal. Cannot risk him signaling his people during transit. Zara nodded, and they bound Volkov's hands behind his back, placed the hood over his head. He did not resist, still playing the cooperative prisoner. But she could feel his mind working, plotting, waiting for the right moment to turn the situation to his advantage. They moved through the port in darkness, using containers for cover, avoiding the few security patrols that wandered the area. The cargo ship was a rusty hulk that looked barely seaworthy, but its engines were running and its crew was ready to depart. The captain met them at the gangway. His English was heavily accented, but clear. You have passage to Malta. Cargo hold. No questions. You stay quiet. We arrive in 3 days. You make trouble. I throw you both overboard. Understand? Zara nodded. Understood. They descended into the hold, a dark space filled with legitimate cargo and the smell of diesel. Rashid had arranged a small section with basic amenities. Cots, water, food. Enough to survive the crossing. As the ship's engines rumbled to life and they felt the vessel moving away from dock, Volkov spoke from behind his hood. 3 days locked in a cargo hold with the woman who destroyed my life. This should be interesting. 3 days to make sure you reach trial. 3 days to prove that justice still means something. You're naive, Corporal say. But I admit, I respect your conviction. It will make your eventual disillusionment that much more educational. Zara secured him to a structural support, ensuring he could not move without making noise. Then she took position where she could watch him, her weapon ready, her mind already planning for every contingency. 3 days, 72 hours to keep Volkov alive and contained while crossing the Mediterranean on a smuggler's ship. 72 hours where he would try every manipulation, every trick, every psychological weapon Program 17 had taught them both. And at the end, if they made it to Malta, the real fight would begin. Convincing American authorities to take custody. Navigating extradition law. Ensuring Volkov actually faced trial instead of being traded for intelligence or disappeared into a black site. She thought about Emma's drawing in her wallet. The careful crayon work spelling out, "My hero," in bright letters. That little girl believed promises meant something. Believed that good people won in the end. Believed that Corporal Zara Osei would keep her safe from the bad men. Zara would not let that belief be proven false. Not for Volkov, not for the cynicism he represented, not for the easy path of execution that would solve short-term problems while betraying long-term principles. The ship rolled on dark water, carrying them toward Malta and whatever justice looked like in a world where both were Program 17 graduates. Volkov's voice drifted through the darkness. Tell me about her. The little girl. Emma. What makes her worth all this trouble? Zara answered without thinking. She believes in heroes, in people who keep promises, in a world where the good guys win. She should not have to learn that was a lie. And if keeping that belief alive means dying on the ship or in some Maltese prison, then at least I die proving it was not a lie. That somewhere, someone chose principle over expedience. That being better than what we were trained to be is possible. Volkov said nothing for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice carried something Zara had not heard before. Something almost like respect. You really believe that? You truly think one person can matter against systems designed to break them? Emma believes I matter. Her parents believe I matter. 32 people are alive because I mattered when it counted. That is enough. The ship's engines thrummed in the darkness. 3 days to Malta. 3 days to prove that promises could be kept, that justice could win, that being a hero meant more than just survival. Zara settled in to watch Volkov through the long night ahead, knowing that every minute he stayed alive was a minute Emma's belief in heroes remained intact. That was worth any risk, any sacrifice, any price. Day 2 on the cargo ship, and Volkov had not stopped talking. He had tried every angle, every manipulation, every psychological technique Program 17 had taught them about breaking an opponent's will. He questioned her motives, her beliefs, her commitment to a system that had failed so many others. Zara had stayed silent for most of it, conserving energy and refusing to engage. But as the ship rolled through rough Mediterranean waters, she found herself responding to one particular question. Why did you really join the Marines, Corporal? After 6 years in Program 17, you could have made a fortune as a contractor, could have worked for any private military company in the world. Why choose the lowest pay and strictest rules? Zara checked his restraints before answering, a habit she maintained every few hours. Because I wanted to believe in something clean, something with clear rules and honorable purpose. Program 17 taught me to operate in gray zones, but I wanted to live in the light. And how is that working out for you? You are currently transporting an illegal prisoner on a smuggler's ship, operating without official sanction, having conducted a hostile operation in a foreign country. Very clean, very by the book. The words stung because they were true. Every choice she had made since the embassy attack had pulled her deeper into the gray zones she had tried to escape. But there was a difference between choosing gray and accepting it as inevitable. I am doing what is necessary to protect innocent people. That is still the mission, even if the methods are complicated. Volkov's laugh was tired. You sound like I did 15 years ago, before I learned that necessary is just another word for expendable. You think you are protecting Emma by bringing me to trial. But what you're really doing is putting a target on yourself, on her, on everyone you care about. My people will not stop looking for me. And when they cannot find me, they will start looking at the people who took me. Zara had thought about this, about the consequences of her choice. You have people who would come after a 9-year-old child. I have people who would do anything I ordered before my capture. And orders do not expire just because I am unavailable. If something happens to me, if I disappear into American custody, certain protocols activate. Insurance policies, you might call them. You are bluffing. Am I? Test that theory. See what happens when my check-in deadline passes without contact. See who pays the price for your principles. The ship lurched in heavy seas, and Zara braced herself against the bulkhead. She wanted to dismiss Volkov's threats as psychological warfare, but Program 17 had taught her that the best lies contain truth. He absolutely would have dead man protocols in place. What do you want, Volkov? You want me to let you go? That is not happening. I want you to understand the reality of your situation. You have captured me, yes. Congratulations. But delivering me to authorities means unleashing consequences you cannot control. My people will retaliate. Your government will disappear me into a black site where I will trade information for freedom, and you will have risked everything for nothing. Is that really what Emma would want? Stop using her name. Why? She is the reason we are having this conversation. She is the reason you cannot just dump me overboard and be done with it. She represents everything you wish the world could be. Innocent, trusting, believing in simple morality. But the world is not simple, Corporal, and holding on to that innocence requires blood that you are not willing to shed. Zara's hand moved to her weapon, and for a moment she considered it. One bullet, one body consigned to the Mediterranean, one problem solved. No trial, no consequences, no risk to Emma or anyone else. But then what? Then she became exactly what Volkov claimed she already was. Another Program 17 graduate who abandoned principles for expedience. Another operator who chose easy violence over difficult justice. Emma's face appeared in her mind. The little girl's absolute trust. Her belief that Corporal Zara kept promises and made the world safe. That belief deserved protection, even if the cost was high. I'm taking you to Malta, Volkov, then to American custody, then to trial. Whatever happens after that, at least I know I did the right thing. The right thing. He almost spat the words. There is no right thing in our world, Corporal. There is only survival and consequences. You are choosing consequences for the sake of a child's illusions. Those illusions are the only thing keeping the world from becoming what you made it. Someone has to believe in right and wrong. Someone has to prove it matters. The ship's engines changed pitch, and Zara heard footsteps above. The captain's voice filtered down through the hold. We have a problem. Coast Guard patrol approaching. They want a board for inspection. Zara felt her stomach drop. Coast Guard meant official presence, meant questions she could not answer with a prisoner in the hold. Rashid had assured her this crossing would be quiet. No inspections, no complications. Volkov's voice carried dark satisfaction. And there it is. The real world asserting itself over your fantasy. What happens when they find me, Corporal? When they discover an American Marine illegally transporting a prisoner through international waters? Do you think your government will acknowledge this operation? Do you think they will protect you? The captain appeared at the hold entrance. You need to hide. Both of you. There is a compartment behind the cargo containers. Move now. Zara hauled Volkov to his feet and pushed him toward the indicated space. The hidden compartment was barely large enough for two people, a claustrophobic box that reeked of diesel and fear. She forced Volkov inside and followed, pulling the false panel closed just as she heard boots on the deck above. They sat in darkness, Volkov's breath warm against her face in the confined space. Italian voices echoed through the hold, Coast Guard officers conducting their inspection. Zara kept her weapon pressed against Volkov's ribs, a silent reminder not to make noise. Minutes stretched into eternity. The Italian voices grew closer, inspecting cargo, checking manifests. Zara could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Volkov whispered, barely audible. One word from me, and this ends. They will find us, arrest us both, and you lose everything. Your freedom, your career, your ability to protect anyone. Is your principle worth that? Yes. Even if it means Emma loses her hero? Even if it means the ambassador's family has no one to trust? Even then, because if I betray my principles to save them, I am not their hero. I am just another operator making expedient choices. The Italian voices moved away, satisfied with their inspection. The captain's voice called out thanks and safe travels. Engine pitch changed again as the ship resumed its course. They waited in the compartment for another 20 minutes before the captain cleared them to emerge. Zara pulled Volkov out, both of them gasping in the relatively fresh air of the hold. The captain looked grim. That was too close. We have another 30 hours to Malta. No more inspections, but we stay below deck. No movement, no noise, no risks. Understood. Zara secured Volkov again, her hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline dump. That had been too close. One inspection officer who decided to check the hidden compartment, and everything would have collapsed. Volkov settled back into his restraints with an expression that might have been respect. You really are committed to this, even when reality keeps showing you it is impossible. It is only impossible if I give up. The next day passed in tense silence. Zara dozed in shifts, never fully sleeping, always aware of Volkov's presence and potential. He had stopped the constant psychological assault, seemingly content to wait and see how this gamble played out. On the third morning, land appeared on the horizon. Malta's rocky coast materialized through the morning mist like a promise. Zara felt something loosen in her chest. They had made it. Against odds and obstacles and Volkov's manipulation, they had crossed the Mediterranean. The ship docked at a commercial port on Malta's southern shore. Rashid had arranged for contacts to meet them, representatives of an international law organization that specialized in war crimes prosecution. They arrived with official credentials and grim expressions. A woman in a severe suit examined Volkov with clinical interest. Commander Kazimir Volkov, we have been looking for you for a very long time. You will be transferred to American custody within the hour, pending extradition proceedings. Volkov's smile was cold. And you believe American custody means trial? You believe I will see the inside of a courtroom? How naive. I will be in a black site within a week, trading information for consideration, living comfortably while people who trust the system wonder why justice never comes. Zara wanted to argue, but could not, because he might be right. The intelligence world traded in expedience, and Volkov had decades of information that made him valuable beyond his crimes. The woman's expression did not change. That is not our concern, Commander. Our concern is removing you from circulation. What happens after is beyond our jurisdiction. They took Volkov away in restraints, loaded him into an armored vehicle with professional efficiency. He looked back at Zara one final time before the door closed. You tried, Corporal. You really tried. I suppose that counts for something. Then he was gone, and Zara stood on a Maltese dock watching the vehicle disappear into the city. She had done it. She had captured Volkov, transported him across international waters, delivered him to authorities who would hand him to American custody. But the victory fell hollow, because Volkov's words echoed in her mind. What if he was right? What if justice was just theater and the real outcome was backroom deals and intelligence trades? Her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus Webb. Well done, Corporal. You achieved the impossible. Return home. Resume your life. And know that you made a difference, regardless of how the bureaucracy handles it from here. A second message came through, this one from a number she did not recognize. The text was simple but devastating. Emma asked about you today. Wanted to know when her hero was coming home. The ambassador sends his regards. Zara sat on a cargo container and let the weight of the last week wash over her. The violence, the fear, the constant push against impossible odds. She had risked everything to prove that principles mattered, that justice could win, that being a hero was more than just survival. Whether that gamble had paid off would not be known for weeks or months or years. Whether Volkov faced real trial or comfortable imprisonment was beyond her control now. But Emma believed in her. The ambassador trusted her. 32 people were alive because she had chosen to fight instead of flee. That had to be enough. Zara stood, pocketed her phone, and headed toward the terminal where a flight home waited. She had been away for a week, operating in shadows, crossing lines she had sworn to avoid. But she was still a Marine, still the person who kept promises, still the hero a 9-year-old girl believed in. The world might be complicated and justice might be imperfect and systems might be broken. But that just meant people like her had to keep fighting anyway. She boarded the plane home, exhausted and wounded and unsure of what came next, but certain that she had made the right choice, no matter how difficult the consequences. The flight home gave Zara too much time to think. 12 hours in the air, watching clouds pass beneath the wings, wondering if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Volkov's words haunted her. His certainty that the system would trade him for information, that justice would be sacrificed for intelligence value, that her principles would amount to nothing. By the time she landed stateside, exhaustion had settled into her bones like lead. But there was no rest waiting. Captain Rodriguez met her at the airport with 2 military police escorts and an expression that said nothing good was coming. Corporal Osei, you're to come with us. Official inquiry into your unauthorized travel and activities abroad. Zara had expected this. The moment she stepped onto that plane to Morocco, she had accepted the consequences. Sir, I understand. I am ready to answer any questions. They took her to a secure facility at Quantico, a nondescript building where careers went to die. The inquiry board consisted of 3 Marine officers and 2 civilians who smelled like intelligence services. They sat across a long table from her, files spread before them, expressions carefully neutral. The senior officer, a colonel with more ribbons than Zara had years of service, opened the proceedings. Corporal Osei, you are aware that you traveled to Morocco on approved leave, but conducted unauthorized military operations on foreign soil. You engaged in combat, transported a prisoner across international waters, and coordinated with foreign intelligence assets without proper authorization. Do you dispute any of these facts? No, sir. I do not dispute them. Can you explain why you felt justified in taking these actions outside the chain of command? Zara met his eyes steadily. Commander Kazimir Volkov represented a direct threat to American citizens, specifically the embassy personnel I am sworn to protect. Intelligence indicated he was planning retaliation. I assessed that official channels would be too slow to prevent harm. I acted to neutralize the threat. One of the civilians leaned forward. By capturing and transporting an international fugitive without coordination with State Department, CIA, or any official body. You do understand that creates diplomatic complications? I understand that 32 people are alive because I made hard choices at that embassy. I understand that a war criminal is now in custody because I refuse to wait for bureaucracy to catch up with necessity. If that creates complications, I accept responsibility. The colonel's expression softened slightly. Corporal, no one is questioning your courage or your effectiveness. Your actions at the embassy were exemplary. But there are rules that govern military operations for good reasons. You cannot simply decide to conduct foreign operations based on personal assessment. With respect, sir, my assessment was correct. Volkov was planning retaliation. He had resources and capability. If I had filed official reports and waited for authorization, people would have died while the paperwork were processed. The second civilian spoke for the first time, a woman with cold eyes that suggested she had made harder calls than this. The problem, Corporal Osei, is that we cannot verify your assessment. We cannot confirm Volkov was planning imminent action. What we can confirm is that you violated multiple international laws and military regulations. That requires consequences. Zara felt the walls closing in. She had known this was coming, but hearing it stated so baldly still hit like a physical blow. What consequences are you recommending? The colonel consulted his notes. Given your exemplary record and the extraordinary circumstances of the embassy defense, we are recommending administrative discipline rather than court-martial. Reduction in rank, formal reprimand. Restriction to base for 6 months. Your Navy Cross will stand, but your future in the Marine Corps will be limited. No chance of advancement, no special assignments, no positions of increased responsibility. The death of a career delivered in clinical language. Zara would remain a Marine, but only technically. She would never rise above corporal, never receive the trust that came with leadership positions, never be more than a glorified security guard with a medal she earned by being too effective. She thought about Emma's drawing in her wallet, about the little girl who believed heroes made the world safe, about whether that belief was worth the price she was about to pay. Yes, sir, I accept those consequences. The inquiry concluded, paperwork was signed, and Zara found herself walking out of Quantico as the same rank she walked in, but fundamentally different. Her future had been capped, her potential limited, her career effectively over before it had really begun. Rodriguez was waiting outside, leaning against his vehicle. His expression was sympathetic. That was rough, Corporal. I'm sorry. Do not be, sir. I made my choices. You did the right thing. At the embassy and in Morocco. The fact that the system is punishing you for it just proves how broken the system is. Maybe the system works exactly as designed, and I just do not fit into it anymore. Rodriguez handed her a folder. Before you disappear into restricted duty, you should know something. Volkov is not in a black site. He is at The Hague, awaiting trial for war crimes. Apparently someone in the Justice Department decided to make an example of him. Actual trial, actual accountability. Your gamble paid off. Zara opened the folder and found news articles about Volkov's transfer to international custody, about the charges being filed, about witnesses coming forward now that he was in custody. Her hand shook slightly as she read. He had been so certain the system would protect him, would trade his information for comfort. But someone had chosen principle over expedience. Rodriguez smiled. Not everyone in the government is cynical, Corporal. Some people still believe in doing the right thing. You reminded them why that matters. The ride back to base was quiet. Zara stared out the window at the passing landscape, processing the contradiction of her situation. She had won, but she had lost. Volkov would face trial, but her career was over. Emma's hero had succeeded, but the system had punished her for it. Back at her barracks, a package was waiting. No return address, just her name carefully printed. Inside was a letter from the ambassador. Corporal Osei, I wanted you to know that Emma asks about you every day. She tells everyone at school about the brave Marine who saved her life. She has decided she wants to join the Marines when she grows up to be like you. My wife and I cannot thank you enough for what you did. You gave us our daughter back. You gave us our lives back. Whatever happens with your career, whatever consequences you face, please know that you made an immeasurable difference to our family. You are, and always will be, Emma's hero. And ours. Tucked in with the letter was a new drawing. Emma had progressed beyond crayons to colored pencils, and the image showed Zara in dress blues with her Navy cross, standing tall and proud. At the bottom, in neater handwriting than before, were the words, "Thank you for keeping your promise." Zara sat on her bunk and let the tears come. She had given up her career advancement, her future prospects, her chance at the Marine Corps life she had envisioned. But she had kept her promise. She had proved that heroes could be real, that justice could win, that choosing the hard right over the easy wrong mattered. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She wiped her eyes and opened it to find Marcus Webb standing there with that knowing expression he always wore. "Mr. Webb, I am surprised to see you here. I wanted to check on you. Heard about the inquiry results. Rough deal. I knew what I was signing up for." Webb stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Did you? Did you really understand that doing the right thing would cost you everything you worked for?" "Yes, and I would do it again." He smiled, genuine warmth breaking through his usually controlled demeanor. "That is why I am here, Corporal. Program 17 may be officially shuttered, but the network of people it trains still exists. People who operate in the spaces between official and unofficial, who handle problems the regular system cannot address. People who need operators with your particular combination of skills and principles. Are you recruiting me, sir? I am offering you an alternative. Your Marine Corps career is effectively dead, but your ability to make a difference, to protect innocent people, to be the hero that little girl believes in, that does not have to end. There are other ways to serve." Zara thought about it, about stepping back into the shadows she had tried to escape, about becoming an operator instead of a Marine, about trading the uniform she loved for the gray world she had sworn to leave behind. "I need time to think about it." Webb nodded. "Take all the time you need. You have my number. When you're ready to talk about your future, call me. Until then, serve out your restriction. Make peace with your choices. And know that whatever you decide, you did something remarkable. You proved that one person with conviction can change outcomes. That is rarer than you think." After he left, Zara looked at Emma's drawing again, at the carefully rendered Marine in dress blues, at the words thanking her for keeping promises. Maybe her future was not in the Marine Corps. Maybe the system that had trained her, decorated her, and then limited her was not where she belonged. Maybe Webb was right about needing operators who could work in gray zones while holding on to principles. But that was a decision for another day. Right now, she was still a Marine, still Corporal Zara Osei, who had defended an embassy alone and lived to tell about it. Still the person who proved that choosing right over easy was possible. Her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Emma's mother. "Emma wants to know if you can visit sometime. She misses her hero." Zara smiled and typed back. "Tell her I will visit as soon as I am allowed. Tell her I miss her too, and tell her that she is the real hero for being so brave." The response came back quickly. "She says you are both heroes, and that is final." Fair enough, Zara thought. Fair enough. She had 6 months of restricted duty ahead of her. 6 months to decide what came next, what her life looked like after the Marine Corps stopped being her whole identity. 6 months to figure out if she could be both the hero Emma believed in and the operator the world seemed to need. But tonight, she allowed herself to feel the victory. Volkov was facing trial. Emma was safe. The ambassador's family was whole. 32 people were living their lives because she had chosen to fight when fighting seemed impossible. Her career might be over, but her purpose was not. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. 6 months later, Zara stood outside a suburban house, watching Emma chase a soccer ball across the front lawn. The little girl had grown in the time since that terrible night at the embassy. Taller, more confident, but still carrying that spark of belief that made her special. The restriction had ended yesterday. 6 months of limited duty, of watching other Marines receive assignments and opportunities while she stood post and counted days. 6 months to think about her future, about what came next, about whether she could continue being the person Emma believed in while operating in a world that did not reward that kind of belief. Emma spotted her and came running, the soccer ball forgotten. "Miss Zara, you came. Mom said you were coming, but I did not believe it until now." Zara caught the girl in a hug that felt like coming home. "Of course I came. I promised, did I not? You always keep your promises." The ambassador appeared on the porch, older looking than Zara remembered, but smiling genuine warmth. "Corporal Osei, welcome. Please come inside. We have been looking forward to this for months." The house was comfortable and lived in. Photos on the walls showing a family rebuilding their life after trauma. Emma's mother appeared from the kitchen with iced tea and the kind of maternal efficiency that suggested this was a well-practiced routine. Over tea and cookies that Emma insisted on serving personally, they talked about everything and nothing. The ambassador's new assignment at the State Department, Emma's progress in school, the carefully avoided topic of what had happened 6 months ago in Morocco and The Hague. Finally, after Emma had been gently encouraged to go practice piano, the ambassador's expression turned serious. "We heard about the inquiry results, about your career limitations. I want you to know that I filed multiple protests, called in every favor I had, tried to explain that you saved our lives. It did not matter. The system protected itself." Zara smiled without bitterness. "I knew the price when I made my choices, sir. I have no regrets." Emma's mother leaned forward. "We want to do something. To help. My family has connections, resources. We could arrange a position in private security, corporate protection, something that would use your skills and pay you what you are worth." "Thank you, ma'am, but I'm a Marine. For however long they will have me. That is who I am." The ambassador studied her with the sharp intelligence that had made him effective in diplomacy. "You know that will not be forever. The Marine Corps has made it clear your ceiling is low. What happens when they force you out?" Before Zara could answer, Emma burst back into the room with a newspaper clutched in her small hands. "Miss Zara, look. You are in the paper." The article was about Volkov's trial at The Hague. 3 months of testimony, witness after witness detailing his crimes. The prosecution had built an overwhelming case, and buried in the article, a single line mentioned the unnamed Marine who had captured him and delivered him to justice. Emma pointed to the line. "That is you, right? The brave Marine who caught the bad man?" Zara felt a lump forming in her throat. "That is me, sweetheart. You did it. You promised the bad men would not come back, and you made sure they could not. You're the best hero ever." The absolute certainty in Emma's voice, the unwavering belief, hit Zara harder than any of Volkov's bullets had. This child trusted completely, believed absolutely, saw the world as a place where promises meant something because Corporal Zara Osei had proved they did. Later, after dinner and more stories in Emma's increasingly creative delays of bedtime, Zara found herself alone on the porch with the ambassador. The evening air was cool, peaceful, a world away from cargo ships and embassy sieges. "She really does see you as her hero, you know, not just for saving her that night, but for showing her that people can be trusted, that the world has good people who keep their word. You gave her something precious." "I just did my job, sir." He laughed quietly. "Your job was to guard an embassy. You went so far beyond that it defies description. And now you are paying the price for being exceptional. That seems fundamentally unjust. Justice and fairness are not always the same thing. I learned that from Volkov. He was right that the system is broken. He was just wrong about what that means. Broken systems need people who refuse to break with them, who keep choosing right even when it costs everything. Is that sustainable? Can you really keep being that person when the reward is limitation and restriction? Zara pulled out her wallet and showed him Emma's drawing, now worn at the edges from being carried everywhere. As long as that little girl believes in heroes, I can keep being one, even if the only recognition I get is from a 9-year-old with colored pencils. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. The State Department is creating a new position. Special Liaison for Embassy Security Reform. Someone who understands both the tactical realities and the human cost. Someone who has proven they can make impossible decisions under pressure. The position would be civilian, which means leaving the Marines, but would mean real influence, real ability to change how we protect our people. Zara felt something shift in her chest. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a way to keep making a difference. To train the next generation of embassy security personnel. To ensure that what happened to us never happens to another family. You would be teaching people to be like you. To keep promises and protect innocent people and believe that doing the right thing matters. What about Marcus Webb's offer? What about the shadows and the gray zones and the unofficial operations that needed people with her skills? Zara thought about it. About trading the uniform for a different kind of service. About teaching instead of fighting. About influencing systems instead of working around them. About being the person Emma believed in, but in a role that lasted beyond restricted duty and forced retirement. Can I think about it, sir? Of course. But Corporal, I hope you know that whatever you choose, you have already made more of a difference than most people manage in a lifetime. Emma is alive because of you. 32 people are living their lives because of you. Volkov is facing justice because of you. That legacy does not change regardless of what comes next. Before Zara left, Emma insisted on one more hug. The little girl whispered in her ear, quiet and serious. I'm going to be a Marine like you when I grow up. I'm going to keep promises and protect people and be brave even when it is scary. Zara pulled back to look Emma in the eyes. You're already brave, Emma. You were brave that night when you stayed quiet and trusted me. You are brave every day when you choose to believe the world is good despite everything you saw. That is the hardest kind of bravery. Will you teach me? When I am older, will you show me how to be strong like you? If you still want to learn when you are older, I promise I will teach you everything I know about keeping promises and protecting people. Deal? Deal. The drive back to base gave Zara time to process everything. 2 offers for her future. 2 very different paths. Webb's network would let her keep operating in shadows, handling problems that needed her particular skills. The ambassador's position would let her influence systems, train others, create lasting change. Both meant leaving the Marines. Both meant accepting that her original path had ended. Both meant choosing what came next instead of letting circumstances choose for her. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus Webb. Heard you visited the family today. I imagine they made you an offer. For what is worth, you would be excellent at either path. The question is which version of yourself you want to be. The operator or the teacher. The shadow or the light. Both are needed. Both are honorable. Choose whichever lets you sleep at night. Zara smiled at the message. Webb understood the choice in a way few others could. He had walked both paths, had chosen the shadows for years before stepping back to support others from a distance. That night, alone in her barracks quarters, Zara looked at her dress blues hanging in the closet. The Navy Cross pinned to the chest, the ribbon for valor under fire, the marks of service and sacrifice. She had been so certain when she joined that this was her path. Clean rules, clear purpose, honorable service. Life had proven more complicated than that. But complicated did not mean wrong. It just meant she had to keep choosing, keep adapting, keep being the person Emma believed in even as circumstances changed. She pulled out her phone and typed 2 messages. To Marcus Webb, thank you for the offer. I am honored, but I think my path leads in a different direction. The shadows need operators who can work without recognition. I need to be visible to show people like Emma that choosing right is possible. I hope you understand. His response came quickly. I understand perfectly. The world needs teachers as much as it needs operators. Go influence the next generation. Make them better than we were. And if you ever need help, you know where to find me. The second message went to the ambassador. I accept your offer. On one condition. I want to create a training program that teaches not just tactics, but principles. That shows people how to make hard choices while keeping their humanity. That proves you can be effective and ethical. If you can give me that, I am in. His response took longer, but carried equal certainty. Done. Welcome to the State Department, Miss Osei. You can start as soon as your Marine Corps commitment ends. And thank you for everything. Zara set her phone down and looked at Emma's drawing one more time. The careful colored pencil work showing a hero in uniform. The words thanking her for keeping promises. She would keep wearing a uniform, just a different one. She would keep protecting people, just in a different way. She would keep being the hero Emma believed in, teaching others to be heroes too. The Marines had given her structure and purpose. Program 17 had given her skills and capability. But Emma had given her something more important. A reason to believe that choosing right over easy mattered. A reminder that promises were sacred. A proof that one person could make a difference. 6 months ago, she had defended an embassy alone against impossible odds. She had captured a war criminal when everyone said it was impossible. She had delivered him to justice when the smart money said she would fail. Now she would teach others to do the same. To stand against impossible odds. To keep promises even when it cost everything. To prove that heroes were not fantasy, but choice. Emma wanted to be a Marine when she grew up. Wanted to be brave and strong, and someone who kept promises. Zara would make sure that when that day came, there would be a Marine Corps worth joining. A system that valued principles as much as capability. A world where heroes like Emma could thrive. She had been a ghost once, then a Marine. Soon she would be something new. A teacher, a reformer, a person who influenced systems instead of fighting against them. But through all of it, she would remain the same in the ways that mattered. Someone who kept promises. Someone who protected the innocent. Someone who proved that doing the right thing was always worth the cost. Emma believed in her. 32 people were alive because of her. Volkov was facing justice because of her. That was enough. That was everything. That was the legacy she would build on. Corporal Zara Osei, Marine security guard, defender of embassies and keeper of promises, closed her eyes and smiled. The future was uncertain, but for the first time since that terrible night, it was also full of possibility, and that was worth fighting for.